Happy New Year! It's a net 9 year, meaning shifts are about to happen, yo, and I have the deets. Keep streaming for Namaste Today Live. Hello, my earthly neighbors. Welcome to Namaste Today Live. My name is Sensei Christopher Witecki, a cosmic comedian here to teach you, to coach you, to inspire you, and get you to what I call serious joy, the most you've ever experienced in your entire life. We are streaming live today on YouTube, Facebook, X.com, Instagram, and even LinkedIn. A lot of viewers there. If you're in our chat room tonight, say hello to everyone. Tell them your sign. Tell them where you're coming from. Let's connect our spiritual family. We like to connect and meet lots of friends here. And don't forget to fill out our surveys. It's very informative and fun. This week, we got a lot going on, folks. It's, first of all, a new year. A big choice is coming this week on Tuesday. It's step 17 Capricorn. We'll be getting deep on that. Mars retrograde re-enters into Cancer. That means everyone's going to be bitchy. I'll talk about why, where, and where the triggers are. And the Sun squares Chiron at the end of the week. And what that means is it's a turning point on your hope and what you're going to do. And later tonight, an Atlantean priestess, and galactic change. Basically a channeler who goes all the way back to the ancient civilizations of Atlantis. I'm super excited because this is one of my nerd research topics in my life. And here's someone who is probably an eyewitness. We'll talk about that more later. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Saturday, January 4th to Friday, January 10th, 2025. Taking a sneak peek at the weekend forecast. Over the weekend, you're going to make up your mind about a new perspective of control or managing your daily life. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and discerning. Step 14 indicates Mercury rules the day, a highly pensive day with a lot of conversation. What you are deciding on is a new perspective to take on control and your daily life. You're holding space for a big decision on this day. The moon in Pisces brings back karma and reveals how much you've grown. And with Mars trining the North Node, the universe is pushing for self-love first. On Sunday, it's sunny and deep. Step 15 means Venus rules the day. This is a creative, resting, and receiving day. You're opening up to accept your new direction in daily life, and you're deciding based on love. You're also seeing just how far your heart can go. The moon moves from Pisces into Aries, so the end of the day may be a bit more aggressive. As we move on to the 5-day weekday forecast, over the course of the upcoming week, you're going to commit now to this new direction and begin to feel the consequences on Friday. On Monday, it's sunny and directed. Step 16 means Neptune rules the day. This is a day where psychic awareness and intuition are flowing easily. You'll have to decide to stay faithful on this day and realize that the real power is that love. With the moon in Aries, you're feeling Mars re-enter Cancer in its retrograde to step 29, perhaps pushing the limits or testing your emotional security. And with Mercury squaring Neptune, deception is over, you're onto the right ideas. On Tuesday, it's sunny and relieved. Step 17 indicates Saturn rules the day. This is a day where it'll be easy for you to decide, and because it's in Capricorn, this is a Grandmaster day. You are deciding on this day with hope, and you are testing your self-love by making the right choices. As the moon moves from Aries into Taurus, you'll feel your choices settle in to manifestation. On Wednesday, it's sunny and worthy. Step 18 indicates Mars retrograde rules the day. It's time to decide to go forward. And you have to determine, is your plate half full or half empty? Mercury squares the North Node, pointing towards self-love once again. The Sun squares Chiron, indicating that the future has unlimited possibilities. And the moon in Taurus manifests all this into a new reality. On Thursday, it's sunny and committed. Step 19 means Earth rules the day. This is a day of manifestation and materialization. On this day, you're going to decide to integrate your life with all the principles you have been putting forward. You're also emotionally owning your long-term strategy. And as the moon moves from Taurus into Gemini, thoughts and feelings may bounce off each other. And then on Friday, it's cloudy and introverted. Step 20 means the moon rules the day, and the moon is in Gemini. On this day, you are deciding to trust and realize that life is teaching you. But with that dangling 0 on step 20, you want to make sure you protect your feelings and shelter from the world.
Serious joy, joy, joy.
I love that. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, our premium flagship TV network now at Serious Joy TV, please be kind and do subscribe. Or if you're watching on Facebook, X, Twitter, or Instagram, YouTube, or even, of course, LinkedIn, please hit the like channel or the like button so that people will find us or share us with your friends. We are today sponsored by, if you didn't see that Galactic awesome commercial, way to go, Adam, Sensei Christopher's annual Countdown 2025 webinar. It's going to be next Saturday. I'm selling tickets now. I'll go into the details in tonight's show as to why it's important. But in essence, this is going to be a hell of a year. It's a net 9 year. And there's a lot of directions I have for those who want to honor it and avoid the pitfalls and also at the same time capitalize on the moments. It's going to be chaos, but from chaos can come some brilliant stuff. If you want tips for all 12 signs, it's about a 2.5 hour webinar. It's live, and then there's a workshop after where I answer some people's questions. Go to senseichristopher.com for more information. Without further ado, let's take a look at week's planets and transits. Happy New Year, everybody. It's nice to be back on the air. It has been quite a transformative 2024, has it not? I myself have been going through everything I preach in the last 3 weeks. Like every now and then the universe makes me practice what I preach. And I try to, but I just stay so busy. And eventually God's like, no, you gotta do this, to go to the next level. So it's been a very powerful time. I'm very excited in 2025. And I want to say, to everyone out there, I know how you're feeling, but I just now in the last couple days have had clarity where the clouds have finally opened. And in some cases, it's been cloudy my whole life, right? So there's a lot of clarity coming in just right now. So if you don't feel like you're with it, you're not behind. There's a lot. It's a lot of processing right now. We're in Capricorn. And so Capricorn energy, if you don't know, is the energy of the human that makes decisions and commitments. It's a part of us that does New Year's resolutions. It's a part of our consciousness that promises when we get married, when we promise anything. We have that Capricorn energy that's on our back, like Saturn, reminding us of what we're supposed to do. This year is a very powerful year because this is the first year in 15 years that Pluto wasn't also in Capricorn. And if you're new to astrology, Pluto is a bummer. When it's in a sign, it can be very hard. And so we haven't been able to make good decisions, at least the healthiest decisions, put that way, for our lives for 15 years because Pluto has always been pointing out areas of our life that we suck at. So it's a new frontier, really. I mean, I would say no matter where you are in your progress in your life and trying to get ahead, I predict traffic's going to let up. I believe that I'm seeing it already happening where, things that were blocked in my life or on hold, couldn't get to, wish I had the time for, these things are all starting to work out. Really just naturally in the last 3 days since we had the new moon in Capricorn on Monday. So this week coming ahead and where we are in the big galactic center, this is going to be a hell of a year. So I just want to say, studying it for Countdown 2025, I'll just put it this way. It's a net 9 year, okay, which means it's a year of ego. Now, you may get scared when you hear that, but the truth is humans have worked on their ego for a long time. I mean, the last 20 years with Uranus and Aries and That really made our egos let go of the petty stuff. Even like when you see the United States, for instance, our anger over politics, that's actually pretty complex. That's us fighting about the future. That's pretty complex. It's not us, getting into a brawl at a bar. So we've evolved as a species out of that stupid stuff. Of course, there's always beginners. There's always people who have to catch up. But so don't get alarmed with the net 9 year in that sense. And I know with the president, a lot of people see him as huge ego, and he does. He has a 29-degree Leo rising, so he does have a huge ego. So you have this huge ego leader coming in a net 9 ego year, okay? And what adds more fuel to the fire is Saturn moves into Aries, and Neptune moves into Aries. Now, the last time Neptune moved into Aries was the American Civil War. Now, again, I don't want to freak you out about it because again, we have evolved since the Civil War. We don't have to take up guns anymore. That's old school. Humans are not that dumb, People worry about weapons and stuff. We've all had past lives where we had our leg cut off from war. We all have damage from our past lives. We all know war sucks. I don't think the government's always the ones who want to go to war anyway. So I don't feel, when I say Neptune in Aries, that we're in a civil war. We are karmically the next level up, whatever that is. And for the most part, it's intellectual. I think the forefathers would be pleased right now, frankly. Speaking of which, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius at this degree was the American Revolution. So we are one revolution from the American Revolution, and we're one revolution from the Civil War of America. And for those who watch in the world, I'm sorry I can't know more about you, but I'm just giving an example with who we are. So the point here is that Saturn and Neptune go into Aries, which is 9, ego. Ego, more ego energy in a net 9 year. Now, Saturn gives us control. So again, I'm not concerned about fires getting out of control. If anything, I'm expecting a lot of fires that lead to learning how to control the fire. So I think we as a species are ready now to prevent forest fires. Smokey the Bear from the 70s, you finally got your wish. We can prevent it. Actually, I don't think Mother Nature is making the fires, and I don't think it's from our prevention. But the point is that when it comes to fires in our life, we're ready to go to that next level of firefighting. And actually, it's not even firefighting. It's fire marshal. When you mature, I think as a species, you begin to look ahead for what might go wrong. And I think that's what Saturn in Aries is going to do. But Neptune in Aries, on the other hand, Neptune is our spirituality, Neptune is our karma, Neptune is our morality. So if you want to go back to the Civil War, for instance, Neptune in Pisces was all the years leading up to the Civil War, which was, people debating, is this moral to call a slave, to have slaves? Is it moral to count them only as 3/5 of their real population? Is that moral? What are our morality? There was a lot of cults that popped up in the United States or at that time. Of course, Lincoln was popular, who was an Aquarius, by the way. And then when Neptune went into Aries, the war started. That was the point when they were tired of debating about it. What's right and what's wrong. Neptune in Aries is like, let's just change history. Let's put this into our own hands, right? So, I do predict this year to be really chaotic because people who sat on their ass this whole time are actually going to get up and they're going to do something about it. Neptune in Aries is going to inspire them. You're going to be inspired at the grocery store. You're going to be inspired here. Neptune is inspiration. You're going to be inspired to say something, where in the past you wouldn't have said anything. So it's like everyone's suddenly maybe on everyone's case about things. And you may think that's happening in social media, but that's all talk on Twitter. I don't see people in grocery stores telling them stuff. During COVID, there was a lot of that, but everywhere I travel, at least Americans, we're pretty kind to each other. We actually get along really well. Really well. Naturally in a baseball stadium or anywhere. So my point is, this year is going to be a hell of a year, but it's not what your imagination might think. It's not the damage of the past. We're one revolution up. And, for those who've been watching me, by the way, this is our 19th year, my 19th year on YouTube. So that's interesting. I mean, wow, pretty incredible how long it's been. For 19 years, we have not been ready to do anything about it. And in 2025, we're ready. Now, I also think there are factions in the world that have greed and monopoly and control still as their main business objectives. And so we're also going to see, I think, how consumerism has screwed us over in many ways and gone too far. And ironically, as we're at this, revolution of the American Revolution, the next revolution of it, I often think if I could go back in time to the forefathers of this country and whisper something from the future, I would tell them, you've got to do something in the Constitution that limits corporate power. Corporate power is way out of hand. As far as I believe what they envisioned, and I study the forefathers, I study the astrology. I mean, they were brilliant at what they were trying to create an everlasting society. You do it, you create an everlasting society. It's not an easy task with all these people from around the world. They never considered what corporations would become. And I think that's what a lot of our corporate battle is this year, especially with like RFK in charge of things, who's been going after corporations all this time. I think that's represented by Pluto leaving Capricorn. I mean, it's like Pluto's showing you everything that's right and wrong. So now it's about taking it up with Aquarius. And I also think Uranus and Gemini. When Uranus hits Gemini this year, a lot of truth's coming out. There'll also be a lot of rhetoric. There'll also be lies. There'll be deception. I mean, Gemini will just fill the room with words and thoughts, and people won't know what to think, which is what Uranus and Gemini is about. You shouldn't be thinking the way you've been thinking. So we're going to be in a period of, I don't know what to think about this or that. So let's bring it down to today. Hi, everybody. Just want to say hi to the people I see in the chat. Let's take a look at the week, shall we? Now, this week is about a healthy decision. That's the theme, a healthy decision. And that healthy decision is step 17. It's going to happen this week. It's the theme of the week. And that step 17 actually happens on Tuesday. So as far as like mastering this week and what we're going to do, I'm looking for my other notes here. I've got 20 up here. Really, it all orbits around this healthy decision, which is going to be on Tuesday. Okay. So as we go through the weekend, what we're really contemplating is a healthy decision in our life. Now, step 17 tells us what a healthy decision is composed of. It's composed of your heart, step 1, and your intuition, step 7. And when your heart and your intuition both agree, it's a healthy decision. It's very simple. Notice it's not very analytical and it's not based on facts. So as we move through this week, we're trying to make a healthy decision. For each of the 12 signs in our soul horoscopes, I'll talk about where that healthy decision is for you. But in essence, this healthy decision might be about healthcare or sending your kids off to a different school, or it might be that you are going to move, or any kind of like business kind of decision, serious decision that involves legal, decision that involves money or power, right? That decision also represents an overall path you're taking in life. So, if you're contemplating a new school for the girls, you're actually contemplating a way of life. You're contemplating a theory about how to go about all decisions. In fact, step 17 sets the precedent for all decisions in the year. The decision you make this week sets a precedent. That means your consciousness will always feel good when it's aligned with that throughout the whole year. So you may not be aware that you're going back to that alignment, but that's what a Grandmaster Day is. It programs that step for the whole year, for the whole calendar. So we're going to program not just a decision in our life, we're going to program a way of life that we go about through the year. No pressure, but it comes down to your heart and your intuition. So you can't deny that. Just ask your heart, does it light up? Does my heart feel good about this? And intuition is more like, do I feel anything wrong? Are there any warning signs? Any sort of like, birds or animals I saw or symbols that I saw that sort of were like kind of pointing me in a different direction. And if there's a warning, you should definitely, take note. Sometimes with a warning, it's just about you're off a little bit. So don't think it's a no necessarily. Now, the key question to ask yourself this week is, am I kidding myself? Do I feel like I'm kidding myself? And the reason for that question is, one, it's the only way to clear out if you are. So energetically, we want to make sure that we're serious about it. And here's what I expect to have happen. I expect people to be making decisions that are out of their comfort zone, that are not the way you would usually do it, because we're building on our old stuff now. We're building on the wisdom of 2024, but I can't go into it, all of our spiritual wisdom. So it's likely, it's very unlike you. It's likely that you have not gone this direction before. It's likely that you've never taken a risk like this. Or it could be something you've always wanted to do and you just can't believe it's here, finally. Or is it? Am I kidding myself? Now, the question is, your heart will know if you're kidding yourself. And ultimately, that's what you want to feel for. If your heart wants it, then it's the right direction. As we move through the week, let's do the weekend first. Over the weekend, today, we have a step 13 day. And by the way, I am feeling it today. Like there's a little nervousness in the air. I personally have graduated a lot of little things today, just things finally took in the right direction. It gives you kind of a jumpy, kind of energetic, but it's there to help you jump out of this disbelief in yourself or taking control of your life. Saturday and Sunday, you're going to process these decisions. So you want to give yourself the whole weekend just to listen to your heart. Step 14, what your heart want, what your heart belong. Step 15 is going to be on Sunday. Do you still feel good about it? Kind of thing. And as we move into Tuesday and through the weekend, by Tuesday, we have step 17 ruling. Monday's going to be a spiritual day. And so in essence, you have the next few days to make this decision. After this, okay, from that point, you want to prepare to act on it. And this is what I really wanted to drive home today, is that in this particular case, whatever you decide, you must do. So that means that you have to have an action, not a ceremony, not something with an altar, not a vision board. That's not an action. It has to be something where you're at risk. Not at risk as far as danger, but losing your money, having a whole kind of complication come up. If you reverse yourself, like it will be hard to go back kind of thing. That sort of intention is a 9 intention. That's what Wednesday is, step 18 Capricorn. It's a 9 year. And because it's a 9 year, and by the way, I'm an 18-9 Taurus, I love my 9s. Because it's a 9 year, every 9 day will really count this year. You have to do what you plan. If you don't, you miss the boat. There's a built in the consciousness, you have to actually move. It's like a safety valve to keep people from manifesting pink elephants or something. So it's important. So plan to do something on Wednesday, hump day. And then we're going to hold space Thursday and Friday, which means until next week when I'm back on the air, we're starting to feel the world change. And we'll talk about navigating those feelings. That's the last chapter of Capricorn. So let's take a look at the planets specifically and dive real quick on what you can experience. The sun this week, I just went through it basically, goes from step 14 to step 21. So in essence, 14 is next Saturday. I'm doing Saturday now. But it's basically like, okay, I'm taking this attitude, and by the end of the week, I'm opening up to what that may turn into. You can dream about where the future is going, but don't start spending your lottery money in this consciousness. That's not how you do it. You've got to literally focus on getting the lottery tickets, right? And focus on the real specifics. So there'll be a tendency this week to dream about the future. You do want to dream about the future, but what do I do today for that future is the focus of this week. Now, Mercury is moving into Capricorn this week. It starts off at 24 Sagittarius, so right now we're sort of opening up to a philosophy. While Mercury is still in Sagittarius, we're still thinking about the plan, we're still thinking about the movie, thinking about the narrative, we're thinking about the characters, that sort of thing. But once Mercury gets into Capricorn, we are going to suddenly be real serious about the details. So you don't have to worry about the details till the end of the week. But Mercury ends up at step 4 Capricorn by next Saturday. And what that means is you're not calling yourself an employee anymore. You're calling yourself like a CEO. So you're going to be mentally giving yourself a promotion in about a week. Looking at Jupiter, Jupiter is at Grandmaster step 12. Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter in Gemini, excuse me. Jupiter in Gemini, you want to go to next, is at step 12, Gemini all week. And step 12 is a Grandmaster step. That's what's important about it, because it adds to a 3, and Jupiter's a number 3. So when you have these 3 3s, just like in a casino, it's a good thing. What it means is you're writing a core belief this week. You're reconsidering something that you hadn't, maybe you considered before and ruled out, an approach, a way of thinking about it. Maybe you're going back to an old way to realize it was the right way. But there's a major reframing of your beliefs this week and where you think they're going to lead. Looking at the moon, let's look at things emotionally. Right now we're in the moon in Pisces, and I'm loving it because I can calm down and just go with the spiritual flow. But for this next 24 hours, you might feel some jitters. Those jitters are stuff you've been hiding from yourself that you just need to look at and have at the time. As we go through the weekend, the moon stays in Pisces, so we're kind of processing spiritually how far we came and maybe reflecting on how hard it was or how easy it was. And the moon kicks into Aries in late Sunday. When that happens, suddenly we're ready to do something about it. So give yourself you don't have to do anything about it. Sunday nights when you're going to really be ready to do something about it. Then Monday, Tuesday, what do I do? So there's a lot of what do I do energy. Hustle, bustle, Monday, Tuesday will be busy. People might be honking at green lights. The moon in Aries means the moon's in 9, so it's a 9 year. Here's some more 9 energy. Anytime you pour on 9 energy, you're going to create traffic or some minor conflicts. Then Tuesday night, the moon goes into Taurus. So you're not ready to really feel the solutions all come together until Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. That's when you'll okay. So what I recommend is just let yourself have till next Tuesday, which is the Grandmaster Step 17 day, right? So the moon is completely in alignment with the step numbers. And then it's not till Thursday night, really, where you start actually working out the details. So you don't have to know how to do it or the exact plan or know the exact price. The Gemini moon is late Thursday, and that's when it's okay, let's write this down. So I just want to give you that comfort because Capricorn has this energy of thinking you're running out of time. That's the thing. Saturn, Capricorn, it's time. And so when I am Capricorn energy, I'm like, I got to hurry. I'm running out of time. That's an illusion. It's because we're in the field of time. So don't worry. You have until Thursday. Now let's look at Mars. Mars this week is our ego. Mars is number 9. This is in that 9 year. So when you look at Mars and you look at what's going on with Mars, you want to be conscious of, how big it can get. Mars retrograde means that you haven't even felt the fuel of the fire yet. Your ego is turned inward right now. And this week, Mars moves from Leo into Cancer. In fact, the first degree it'll be at is at step 29 Cancer, and it ends 28 Cancer by the end of the week. What does this mean? Repressed anger. So if you have repressed anger, repressed rage, repressed memories of violence, it could come up in dreams. This is going to letting the steam out of a kettle. Now, you may not have any steam. You may be all cool and chill, which means you might remember the times or learn about the times. But it does mean we have a major burst of steam once Mars goes into Cancer, especially at step 29. It may look like things are just out of control, but it's just you processing the feelings of things being out of control. They're not really. Moving into Pisces. With Pisces, we have Saturn, Neptune, and Venus has entered the story. This is great. First of all, Saturn goes from step 14 to 15. It's now direct, which means that we are ready to move forward with a spiritual decision. A spiritual decision is I'm getting sober. That's a spiritual decision. I'm going to change my life. That's a spiritual decision. We move forward this week. We accept it. We accept that it has to happen. We don't really move, but we accept it has to happen. This new thing for our spirit. Neptune's still step 27, which means that the plans, the blueprints for your future, they're downloadable. You can log in, to your higher self, and your psyche knows what you need to do. But Venus from 1 to 8 degrees means that it's time to forgive yourself. It's time to just let it all go. It's time to say it's okay to everything. And that's my magic words. But I'm late. It's okay. But this might happen. It's okay. It doesn't matter. You have to come to a complete forgiveness and letting things go to move on. You have to doesn't matter. There's no time for it. Don't worry, you won't be charged in heaven. But it's really relaxing into and accepting your spiritual wisdom. Those are the two parts with Venus. Now, Taurus, we have Uranus and Taurus. Yeah, I know. I've had some breathing issues. Okay, gotcha. So I have had, actually, someone's asking about my breath. Yeah, I have been, first of all, it's a 9-day and things are amped up, but also I'm on a special medication to help me breathe, and actually it makes me hard to breathe. It's been kind of crazy, but it comes from me being proactive about some of my lung issues, actually. So that's where I've been. Someone was asking, so I got the question there. Don't worry, I'm okay. It's not coffee, AD. It's not coffee. It's 7-Up. Actually, it's Sprite. So no, it's not. It's a prescription. I mean, if you want to be honest, it's these fucking prescriptions. They're very intense. And I found that as I get lighter and I'm prescribed Western medicine, my body has a hard time doing the whole process that I'm being prescribed. That's the truth of it. It's a challenge. It really is. I'm not sure we're going to go. Didn't mean to go on that tangent, but we'll call it a lesson. Uranus and Taurus at step 23. You know, you're still, the point here is you're just making, you're basically planning blueprints. You're planning how you're going to put things together. You're reconsidering how you're going to construct things. You're reconsidering the big picture for things. So the point is you don't have to have all the plans. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is at step 1. Has finally progressed. And what that means is that it's now time to protect self-love. Now, this is another thing giving me breathing problems because Pluto at 1 is actually trining my Libra Pluto at 1. So I've been feeling this new command. This commandment, which is what Pluto is asking you to protect your self-love. So protecting your self-love is everywhere in your life, which means it is, when you eat, it's also when you talk to yourself, it's also when you go the extra mile or don't go the extra mile. So Pluto gives you the strength to do it, but at the same time, it'll trip you up if you don't. So you want to be very, conscious of whether or not you're doing the most loving thing. And the North Nodes. Now, this is probably part of most of the drama. The North Node has now moved to step 0 all week. We're preparing for the North Node to move into Pisces. The North Node is in Aries right now. The South Node is in Libra. And with the nodes, it's now time to hold space for everything you have learned in the last 18 months about taking care of yourself, about acting on yourself, about moving forward. The other interesting thing about the North Node in Aries, it's trining Pluto at 0. And so as a result, we have this commandment to honor everything we've learned about how to take care of ourselves, and this other commandment at step 1 to also love ourselves in the process. All right, folks, well, let's transition now. I think it's time to get yourself some tea, not coffee, and let's talk about your soul horoscopes and your tea time. Howdy, folks. This is our soul horoscopes transit, or part of the show, where we go through all 12 signs and a little prediction for what you're going through in the week. Now, I'm kind of changing this up. I don't know if you notice, I'm changing a lot of things up. I've given a lot of thought on my time off about how to restructure my work in the 19th year to really be of service to humankind now. And so, in the beginning, I was very horoscopy, where I just sort of gave you the highlights and the bullets. And then over time, I put in more spiritual teaching. And I think you're going to find now there's a lot of coaching in everything I'm doing. And to some degree, going back to the basics. That's a big theme. So you're going to see me talking a lot this year about the basics, because when you're at the top, you want to remember what it was like to be at the bottom, right? It gives you balance. It's how masters move. So today, for each of the 12 signs, I'm going to be talking about 4 aspects I think are important. One is, where is this important decision? Remember I said there's going to be an important decision this week. One that has to be very careful and thoughtful. And it will be in one part of your life. I'll talk about what part of that life it is for you. And remember, whatever that part of the life is, it is also, at the same time, a symbol, you setting up a policy for how all decisions will go. Then I'll talk about the North Node in Aries, the fact that it is moving to step 0, and where you will have to remember everything you've learned in the last 18 months about that part of your life, apply it, and you have to, at the same time, protect it. In other words, don't let anything get in the way of that lesson. I'll also talk about Pluto, which is now at step 1, Aquarius, and where in your life you have to love yourself and protect it as well. Make sure you don't get in the way of it. Make sure no one else gets in the way of it. And then lastly, we'll talk about Mars and Cancer, which is where the tea kettle could go off, where there could be some steam release, where you might be surprised to have repressed emotions or still hurt feelings about stuff. And I'm telling you tonight so you don't judge yourself. And as always, let's start with the Aries. Aries, you are making some decisions right now for career and legacy. And I can't get into the depth of this now, but Aries are out of a job because ultimately, we're not doing war anymore. And that was your number one thing. Enforcement, war, pushing, aggression, even like hard labor. These are all going to be replaced by robots. Aries are out of a job. So Aries are making some really important career decisions that not only have to do with literal career, they have to do with the way of life, a policy for all decisions. And I want you to know you can experiment a little bit. You know, you can always make changes next year. So Aries tend to think of a one and done. And your Taurus friends are always like, oh no, one is step one. There's 11 more steps, right? Now the North Node in Aries, I'm happy to say, you're almost done with all you've had to do. North Node in Aries has said for 18 months, you got to change the way you behave. You got to change the way you respond. You got to change the way you do things. And the thing is that you are the master of doing things. So as a result, you know, you don't like that. It's almost over, but it's time now to remember everything you've learned about the right way to behave, especially with yourself. That's the most important part. It's not about the world. It's about how you behave with yourself. That's where the key focus is. Now, Pluto at 1 Aquarius means you have to, no one is going to know where you belong in the world. No one's going to tell you where to stand. No one's going to tell you what to do. You have to decide with your heart where you belong in the world, what you belong doing, what you don't belong doing, and it's up to you to decide. The universe is wanting your answer. So with Pluto at 1, you have to love yourself. You know, it's not kind to make yourself wait extra time. It's not kind to make, maybe your heart deserves first class. Whatever you deserve, do it. Don't go cheap on yourself right now. And Mars in Cancer, all right, so tea kettles, Mars in Cancer, you're going to be very volatile, especially around family issues, siblings to some degree, issues around security like the mortgage or security like retirement. You're going to be very emotionally sensitive with Mars going back into Cancer for the whole week. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sandra. Taurus. Tauruses, oh, this is true. It's funny, I don't think about my horoscope until I get to it. Tauruses are making a decision about their belief in life. And I have to say, that's where I've just gotten myself, actually, about what I believe and what I don't believe. And that's more a policy. So when a Taurus goes, I believe things should be affordable, it sets the prices for everything. It's because it's a belief you have about the way life should be. So Tauruses are deciding the way life should be this week. That's the important decision. And it will be. You're a Taurus. You're a manifester. So it will be. Whatever you decide is going to happen. With the North Node in Aries, though, it means that you have to hold the faith. So it will be you that says it's going to be okay. It'll be you that says nothing bad will happen. It'll be you that says there's nothing to fear. Don't look for signs in the world. Don't ask your wife, because you have to know it and you have to own it. And that's your power, that you did it. And that's also the mind F, you know, like, because like, oh shit, I could have just decided the whole time. Yeah, welcome to me, being me as a Taurus. With Pluto at 1 Aqua, this has to do with self-discipline now. This is what I've learned, is that everything I sign myself up for must be loving. So if I decide something for me, it has to be the most loving thing, whether that's with Post-it notes or lunch or anything. So you have to include love now in all your decisions. Your heart has to be a co-signer to every contract. If your heart doesn't co-sign, you're not ready to sign. And Mars in Cancer means the worrier, not warrior, worrier, the worrier might come out. You might be in a lot of worry this week. Your mind might want to go down the rabbit hole or think of the worst things that could happen. But it's up to you to put out that fire, because if it's not real, it's not real. All right, Gemini. Oh, Gemini. I'm proud of the Gemini, especially my son. It's now time to make some decisions to change your life. Now, believe it or not, the hard part of being a Gemini is it took you 15 years to make that decision. But once you make it, you make it. So Geminis are going to change their minds. You're going to change your minds about a lot of stuff this week. Where the line is, what you will do, what you won't do. This will be the important part of where things are. Where is the line exactly? How much, to what degree? Don't leave anything open. With the North Node in Aries, it's up to you to tell the world who you are. Don't expect the world to label you. Don't expect people to know what you are. You have to tell the world, I'm this. And don't worry if you don't have the resume. No one has a resume. You have to say it before it happens. So you tell the world who you are and where you belong. Pluto at 1 degree says, you can no longer question your belief in yourself. You can't go, am I right, am I wrong? That question is not allowed anymore. You have to be loving. and support it. So if you don't know, then the inner wise part of you needs to come out and say, we'll get through this. Let's figure it out. Let's go to research it. You have to be encouraging to know and not get into like a fear of not knowing. And then with Mars in Cancer, there could be a lot of money fears come in, okay? You might have a lot of fear around money, having enough money, being able to do it, getting the job, and they're old fears. And the point is to put them out to change how you feel about it. All right. Cancers. Cancers, I've talked to a lot of you this week. It's now time to make some decisions about relationships. And the funny thing is that Cancers have made these decisions before, but you went back on them. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's anything new for Cancers at all. But it's a policy about relationships. So it's like, I'm no longer going to go that extra mile. I'm no longer going to do this. I'm no longer going to do that. So you're making some policy changes about your relationships. That's the important decision this week. When it comes to the North Node at Aries, it's now time to follow through with all your decisions and do them. You cannot waver. You cannot put them off. If you said you're going to do it, you better do it. You better move forward. You better follow through. There's no room for error. Then with Pluto, it has to do with trusting yourself. So Pluto in Aquarius is saying, Cancers have to trust themselves. They know better. And the problem is that you go down rabbit holes of worry and you talk yourself out of the trust. And Pluto's saying you can't do that anymore. You've got to just, if you trust, shut up, move on. All right? And then lastly, Mars. Mars is in your sign. So if you've been repressing anger, if you've been holding something in from someone, even if you're not ready to tell them, you're going to draw in a fight, okay? So you're going to be drawing in lots of fights right now, especially if you've been ignoring the problem. Now, the point isn't to explode. The point is to not explode and to be able to manage your feelings. All right. Alrighty. Leos. Leos, it's now time to change your lifestyle. Your life is ready for a complete change. The way you've been managing your life was based on an old era of popularity, attention, all sorts of karmic stuff. So now it's time to really reorganize your life to give you the best things in life and lifestyle and routines and work habits, etc. And as a Leo rising, I'm doing that big time right now, reorganizing everything. With the North Node in Aries, you must now believe in yourself. It must be the way it is. You can always work out things where you're wrong or problems you have, but basically you believe in yourself. It has to just be decided. You do. And not even question whether or not you do or don't. Can't even come up as a question anymore. Do I believe in myself? I do. The question is, do I have it right? And then, of course, Pluto has to do with your relationship to yourself. And it is now time for all Leos to love themselves first. To love themselves before someone says they love you. You should always say that you love you before anyone says they love you. Okay? Put yourself in the self-love thing and apply self-love to everything you do in your life. Just make sure it is the one filter everything has to go through. And then lastly, of course, Mars. Unfortunately, Leos might have a wave of karma come up. What this means is in your dream life or in your waking life, you might have old haunts, soulmates, past life people. Basically, any emotion that you're still ignoring could come up. It may come up in your dreams. That's the easiest way. But it may come up in a whole type of thing. And in worst case examples, by the way, drive safely because a lot of people will manifest accidents, such as broken bones or car accidents, when they're repressing all that subconscious emotion. All right. Virgos. Virgos, I'm excited. This is time for you to go after what your heart wants. And most Virgos do, for the most part, or they sit around and think about it for their whole life. And you haven't gotten a lot of legway on this because Pluto's been in this space. You haven't been able to express your heart. There's been blocks, there's been karma. But now it's really time to go for it. I was talking to a couple of Virgos the last couple of days, and they found it hard to believe, but they did believe me that this is a time for them to have what their heart wants and just to go for it and love it and enjoy it. So make that decision and do it. You have everything it takes, and you will pull it off. The North Node for you has to do with trusting yourself. The only way you're going to make these dreams happen is if you just automatically give yourself a blank slate of trust. I mean, no one thinks it like you. No one processes it like you. I'll tell you right now, if I was on a broken elevator, I want to be on with a Virgo. At least they're going to think about everything that could go wrong, right? You've thought of everything that could go wrong. You have. So that's not obviously a way to stop it. The way to stop it is just to trust. And the North Node says you have to trust. Now, looking at Pluto, this is a bit more intense. And I was talking to Virgos this week, and it was funny because they believed it, but they couldn't believe it. It's the Virgos that are going to make the new era. Virgos create reality. It's now time for you to start living in the new reality. It's time for you to live in the new reality. And for you, the new reality has to do with your health and how you live in the moment. Are you happy? Or are you not happy? Pluto 1 says your heart has to be happy with the moment from going forward. And then Mars, you might have to go through a whole cycle that represents rejection, okay? Mars in Cancer for you is society, when people didn't really trust you, people didn't listen to your advice, all this stuff. If you have like repressed emotion around trust and advice, trust in being a leader and being rejected, society not giving you the credit you want, all those things, they may come up because it's time to release that. Just don't release that on the person that triggered it. They're just the messenger to remind you. All right, moving on. Thanks, NM. Libras. Libra, it's time for you to commit to the home and family you deserve. And if you want like a little game, this is the home and family that you would have done if you were your mom, or you would have done if you were your dad. So it's time to commit and give yourself basically the childhood that you want to give yourself, all right? And this is smart, wise, clear, right? The only thing you need to remember is it has to be the one that feels the best. Libras like to sit there and analyze. It has to feel just right, like the Three Little Pigs, that Goldilocks zone of everything feeling good, okay? Now, moving forward with the North Node, this is a little more difficult because it's now time to apply everything you have learned about relationships. You've been working on relationships for 18 months. This is your thing, relationships, but you've been called to move into a different relationship and let go of a different ego. So you have to be the new ego. You have to apply all of your wisdom with your relationships and not go backwards. Pluto, on the other hand, at step 1, Aquarius, is saying that Libras have to consider the loving for themselves in everything they do. So if you're doing something for your neighbor, how are you loving yourself? If you're doing something for your community, how are you loving yourself? You must include how you're loving yourself, or you're going to fall backwards. And then Mars. Mars might be a little frustrating for you because Mars in Cancer means you're going to revisit career failures, bosses that didn't respect you, bad decisions that took you down rabbit holes, big mistakes that you made. You got to let off all the steam around mistakes in your career. All right. Scorpio. I'm seeing Scorpios make a lot of progress on this. Basically, it's time to commit to different policies of communicating. The way you communicate, how you say things, the way you tell people. You want to come back completely different as far as your mental leadership perspective. This will probably be, one of the most comfortable things for you to do because you're very good at changing your policies of thinking and you're very good with following through with it. So this isn't going to be difficult for Scorpios per se. Here's where it's difficult. The North Node in Aries. North Node in Aries is at step 0, okay? But it's in the house of health and stress. So you must live a stress-free life, period. Period. You cannot be in stress anymore. You're fully capable because Scorpios can draw the line. It's a matter of you managing your feelings and trying, making it a important intention, but you must now live the good life. It doesn't matter if you make people wait. It doesn't matter if you have to cancel things. Now, Pluto at 1 says that you have to now be the mother you wish you had. Let me say that again. You must now be the mother you wish you had. That's how you raise the vibration of your self-nurturing. Your feelings, I don't care how much there are or what it's about or whatever, you got to just sit there and rock the cradle until you feel better. period. And it has to be loving because your inner child will know the difference. And then lastly, Mars in Cancer. You might get on a high horse this week with Mars in Cancer at 29 degrees, telling the world the way it should be. But the truth is, don't shit over everyone. What you're really upset about is the times people didn't believe you. So you've got to not take it out on the world. Instead, nurture yourself, be the mother you wish you were. You know, next time, in your next go of it in life, people are going to believe you. The reason why they didn't was because they weren't ready. It had nothing to do with you. All right. Sagittarius. I'm interested to see what happens with Sagittarius is here. You're now making some basic money and productivity decisions. You might have been spending way too much energy trying to get something off the market, or you might be cutting something that isn't working well. You might be making an investment, like deciding that you want to invest in real estate or invest in something else. So money, productivity, this is where your decisions are. But remember, it's a policy, okay? I think for Sagittarius, a lot of the policy is giving too much away. Giving too much away. You can always give more later. You can tip your waitress and then go back to the table and tip her again or tip him again. So you're better off being fair to you right now, and that might be the policy, being fair to you. Here's a hard one, self-love. The North Node at 0 degrees Aries means that you must love yourself or no one else will. Period. You must love yourself or no one else will. You have to think for your heart. When I have clients in personal consultations, when they have an issue in this area that you're dealing with, I always say one for me and one for them. So if you're giving to your kid, you have to have something. If you're giving to your wife, you have to have something. Your inner child has to have something for everything you give. Pluto in Aquarius, this is a tough one for Sagittarius. This is where I think you guys are struggling in my experience of talking to you. And it is, your mind hasn't changed yet. Because you're philosophers and you're so intelligent, you actually don't look to change your mind very much. You think you know how to think better than anyone. You're not cruel, you don't project that on people, but you think you are smarter than the average bear. And as a result, you don't question your own thinking. So you have to be loving in all of your thoughts to yourself, or it's going to really just skew the whole map. And then lastly, Mars. Mars is hitting a very delicate spot for you at 29 Cancer. You might be very uncomfortable about a change. You might have fear of death come up. That would be legitimate. You might be having fear of having to do something you've been regretting. But it's not about what you're regretting. It's about the feelings of the fear. So focus on those. Moving on. Capricorns. Happy birthday, Capricorns. You should be very excited. Pluto's out of your sign. And now it's time to decide what to do. So because it's your birthday, I think you're going to love this decision. This says something about who you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, frankly. And you're going to be making decisions to go for it. So just choose with your heart. Don't try to win. Don't try to gain. Just give yourself what your heart wants. Now, the North Node in Aries means that you must nurture yourself. You got to take care of your feelings. You got to make sure you're okay. You got to make sure that you feel good about it. Don't put it onto your partnerships. Don't put it onto your business relationships. It's your job now. And if you do it, you'll succeed. Now, here's the hard one, Pluto. Pluto at 1 degree says, your heart has to be in love with what's good about you. So if you know you're good at math, love it. If you know you're good at, being a parent, love that. Love all the things you're good at. Love all the things that you think are important. And don't worry if they make a business. Okay, just focus on that and focus on your soul capital. That's what we call it. And then Mars. Okay, here's a warning. Mars is at 29 Cancer. That's your house of partnership and marriage, which means that, anything repressed in the marriage, anything repressed in partnerships, if you haven't been telling the truth to your partner, if you haven't been telling the truth to certain people, could blow up. It's going to come out to be cleaned up. Try not to get into the fight. Talk on and talk about the feelings you're having behind the fight. Excuse me. Aquarius. Aquas, it is time to forgive yourself for everything. That's the important decision. I'm going to tell you what the important decision is. You got to let it all go. No matter what's happened, how life has been, your childhood. I'm hearing a lot of Aquariuses, talk about their childhood, talk about how it led to this, how it led to that. All that has to go. You cannot be in the age of Aquarius holding on to age of Pisces issues. So it's time to just say, it's done. And it's done means that you don't give any more time and attention. So if it comes up, dismiss it. Think about something else. You're very good at ghosting. Ghost your own thoughts. The North Node also is an accompaniment here because the North Node in Aries says your attitude is the most important thing. Your mind has to come to the table with an attitude, the right attitude. And if you go into the wrong attitude, things are going to sink. Pluto in your sign is at step 1. It's a very simple equation, actually, which is everything you do for yourself must be loving. Must be loving when you buy the toilet paper. Must be loving when you shovel the snow. Must be loving. Everything must be loving. When you do anything, it has to be loving. I'm sure you'll figure it out. And then lastly, Mars. Aquariuses might experience a lot of chaos in their work environment, in their lifestyle. If something's been a squeaky wheel in your house, it'll break, okay? Any emotions you have about life not being cool, there might be like a break or a breakdown. The point is not that it broke down. The point is, why'd you get so pissed about it? So emotions around lifestyle. All right, and our final. The Pisces. I'm excited for the Pisces. I've been talking to a lot of Pisces. I always pay attention in public. What's your birthday? I watch people and their signs, and I draw on people, like weeks where I just draw on Pisces at grocery stores, things like that, or in encounters. A lot of Pisces have been coming around me these days, and they feel this too. But I don't know if you know this. This is the end of the age of Pisces. This is the end. Christ was the beginning, Jesus Christ, right? About 5 BC. And this is the end. That means that you're here to embody all of the wisdom of that Christ consciousness, creation energy, spirit, connection to spirit. And so Pisces are deciding right now who to be in the world, what to do, how to handle it. You're basically choosing your position in the world. And whatever your position is, it's actually to be a leader. It's to bring that place in life, the creation Christ consciousness, basically, of creation, of spirit. So I would say, choose what your heart wants. Because if your heart wants to be there, you do a good job. Now, here's the thing, speaking of job. The North Node is at 0 degrees Aries, which means that you have to know what you're worth. No one's going to know what you're worth. No one will name your price. No one will name your price. No one will know what you're worth. And here's the thing, when you tell people what you're worth, they'll know you're lying or not. That's how it's going to be. And if they can't afford you, they'll tell you they can't afford you. But you have to know it. We're not going to know your price. Now, Pluto, here's the irony. Pluto's at 1 degree Aquarius. That means that you must now practice the Christ consciousness. You must now have faith, period. You have to practice what you preach. Can't fake it anymore. There's no deadline extensions going to happen. You got to walk the spiritual path. You could have birds landing on your shoulder, basically. But what that means in your heart is you have to choose faith or fear, period. You have to have faith, period. It's not even a question. It must be. And then Mars. This is exciting. I'll say out of all the Mars and Cancers, yours might be the most fun because you're going to have a lot of feelings come up about your personal dreams. And you might get angry. If you get angry, that's because your heart is pissed that you haven't done it. Okay, so your inner child might be really pissed, but just remember it was you that didn't do it. And the reason why it's coming up is because it's time to do it. It's going to be fun. All right, friends, we're going to take a little break now. And when I come back, we're going to have someone from Atlantis. I can't wait to have the conversation. Keep streaming. This zodiac weather's from Saturday, January 4th to Friday, January 10th, 2025. Taking a sneak peek at the weekend forecast. Over the weekend, you're going to make up your mind about a new perspective of control or managing your daily life. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and discerning. Step 14 indicates Mercury rules the day, a highly pensive day with a lot of conversation. What you are deciding on is a new perspective to take on control and your daily life. You're holding space for a big decision on this day. The moon in Pisces brings back karma and reveals how much you've grown. And with Mars trining the North Node, the universe is pushing for self-love first. On Sunday, it's sunny and deep. Step 15 means Venus rules the day. This is a creative, resting, and receiving day. You're opening up to accept your new direction in daily life, and you're deciding based on love. You're also seeing just how far your heart can go. The moon moves from Pisces into Aries, so the end of the day may be a bit more aggressive. As we move on to the 5-day weekday forecast, over the course of the upcoming week, you're going to commit now to this new direction and begin to feel the consequences on Friday. On Monday, it's sunny and directed. Step 16 means Neptune rules the day. This is a day where psychic awareness and intuition are flowing easily. You'll have to decide to stay faithful on this day and realize that the real power is that love. With the moon in Aries, you're feeling Mars re-enter Cancer in its retrograde to step 29, perhaps pushing the limits or testing your emotional security. And with Mercury squaring Neptune, deception is over, you're onto the right ideas. On Tuesday, it's sunny and relieved. Step 17 indicates Saturn rules the day. This is a day where it'll be easy for you to decide, and because it's in Capricorn, this is a Grandmaster day. You are deciding on this day with hope, and you are testing your self-love by making the right choices. As the moon moves from Aries into Taurus, you'll feel your choices settle in to manifestation. On Wednesday, it's sunny and worthy. Step 18 indicates Mars retrograde rules the day. It's time to decide to go forward, and you have to determine, is your plate half full or half empty? Mercury squares the North Node, pointing towards self-love once again. The Sun squares Chiron, indicating that the future has unlimited possibilities, and the Moon in Taurus manifests all this into a new reality. On Thursday, it's sunny and committed. Step 19 means Earth rules the day. This is a day of manifestation and materialization. On this day, you're going to decide to integrate your life with all the principles you have been putting forward. You're also emotionally owning your long-term strategy. And as the moon moves from Taurus into Gemini, thoughts and feelings may bounce off each other. And then on Friday, it's cloudy and introverted. Step 20 means the moon rules the day, and the moon is in Gemini. On this day, you are deciding to trust and realize that life is teaching you. But with that dangling zero on step 20, you want to make sure you protect your feelings and shelter from the world.
Serious joy, joy, joy.
Oops. Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented lightworkers and innovative influencers of our time. I'm personally fascinated by the history of the Earth and the civilizations that fell before us, and tonight's guest is an eyewitness. Priscilla is an Atlantean high priestess and galactic channeler dedicated to awakening ancient wisdom and deep healing with all who she encounters. Founder of the Temples of Atlantis Mystery School and Galactic Temples of Light membership, she empowers seekers to reconnect with their starseed origins, navigate cosmic initiations, and reclaim lost Atlantean healing techniques. Her signature Cosmic Conscious Reiki certification, starseed healing circles, and international retreats help clients release ancestral and karmic wounds. She embraces their divine gifts and awakens a sense of purpose rooted both in Earth and the stars. In each offering, Priscilla opens doorways into higher realms, bridging ancient mystical teachings with galactic wisdom to support and profound spiritualization. So please send some waves of love and gratitude to my guest today, Step 12 Leo, Galactic Channeler and High Priestess Priscilla Campos. Hello, Priscilla.
Blessings. Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
And pardon my shortness of breath. I'm dealing with some ancient,
Quite
probably,
a battle.
I think, talking about Western medicine and stuff, it's like I have a lot of memory of Atlantis and a lot of connections. I mean, my father at age 6 told me he was a bad guy there. And then,
Dang.
yeah, it was heavy. And I didn't even know what Atlantis was. So it's been a
Right.
steep seed in my consciousness. So I'm really excited to talk to you about it and what you have brought to us. So let's start with the basics because not everyone nerds out on this like us. You know what I mean?
Why? Why? It's the best thing to nerd out on, I think.
Oh, I agree. We'll talk about it. In your own words, simply, what was Atlantis? What's the brief little history?
I would say what the counter is, because everyone kind of thinks of Atlantis as this place that sunk, that's not real.
Mm.
My experience, my studies, my intuition shows me that Atlantis is a galactic frequency. So
Oh, interesting.
while it's been on Earth, it's not home to Earth. It goes to every civilization around our universe
Hmm.
when we're ready to come into a fifth density unity consciousness. So
So
when
right
it
before materialization, like, yeah.
right when
Hmm.
it came before, which again for me it goes back about 3.5 million years on this planet. When it came before, we were at a very high vibration from being in the Lemurian era for so long. And
Mm.
so the Lemurian era is always about love. It's a fourth density. It's about love. It's about grounding into your being and really combining your spiritual with your physical aspects. The Atlantean era then takes what we've just learned and it brings it up into the higher chakras, and it spreads out, like I said, around the universe. So it had a fair chance on Earth, back for sure about 50,000 years ago. It wasn't successful. And so it's time. It's coming back once again. Very soon. It's coming back. It's a very exciting time. Actually, I'm sure most of your listeners know this huge shift that we're in. So
They do. I don't know if they realize it goes back to Atlantis. So are you explaining to me that like this is a creation consciousness of creator that basically helps civilizations form from energy into matter, and so is Earth not quite there yet? Did we fail? Is this how it always is on Sirius and everywhere else, or
You know
comes
what?
back
It
the other
doesn't.
way?
It doesn't always fail. On Sirius, Atlantis had its prime glory, because the
Oh.
Syrians and the Atlanteans are very, very similar in that we're insatiable for knowledge.
Hmm.
What happens on Earth is it gets really corrupted by forces outside of us that then begin to manipulate what was this desire for learning and growth, and manipulate it from a place of open spirited connection to God into a place of selfishness and power hungry and greed. And so it gets corrupted. So
Always, except Sirius.
no, not always. No,
Okay.
on all of my other journeys, I've never seen Atlantis fail.
Wow,
Only
just Earth.
just Earth. But
That's
Earth is a
interesting.
different kind of
Earth's
school.
a jewel. Yeah, it's a jewel. It's a different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you say other energies, we're talking about probably other alien species as well, or not even alien, but other conscious.
Yeah, I'd say like I've investigated on with the Pleiades, Arcturus, Alpha Centauri, the Syrians. Those ones would be the most relevant. Orion, the Orions are very new to the Atlantean frequency,
Hmm.
but it's really interesting because it's a great teacher on how much do we really love one another in the realm that you're in. How much do you love yourself? What's your connection to Source? Because Atlantis will test that definitely.
It feels like, from my own memories of Atlantis and everything that's come up, is that we're just so naive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just such naivety, just such heavenly and naivety. I mean, even myself, I identify with it because sometimes when I hear bad stuff that people do, I'm like, oh my God, I've never even thought of something that horrible. Like,
Yes.
who comes up with that, using intelligence to hurt?
Right.
It's like it feels like Atlantis just got. Now, I've heard that Atlantis had more than one fall, that the big fall wasn't the fall. Do you know
Right.
anything about that?
Yeah, I think I love reading like old literature on Atlantis from like the 1800s. You'll find a lot more historical context right there, and anything by Frank Joseph is very, very date oriented. So when you read those things, the first cataclysm in Atlantis is probably around 200,000 years ago.
Wow.
And so we want to think about it as a bigger island continent, much bigger than most people would give it credit for, bigger than the
Okay.
UK combined. But every time a cataclysm hits, the Atlanteans are separated, right? Their big island becomes smaller islands. They end up losing part of their knowledge and their wisdom. They have to rebuild. So one great thing about Atlanteans is that they're very resilient, right? No volcano is going to keep us down for too long. We will find a way to rebuild and go on. But yeah, there's at least 4 to 5 documented cataclysms. Frank Joseph will talk about 3 of them for sure. And he puts the last fall of Atlantis much, much sooner, like closer to us than anybody else does. He'll say Atlantis fell about 3,000 years ago.
Oh my God.
Whereas most other scholars will say 10 to 12,000 years ago.
What does your intuition say?
I find it really interesting. I often go through different timelines and think about what's possible. When we look at the Trojan War, the Trojan War is very connected. Like that's a colony of Atlantis. So for them to have that much spite in them, and including some wars with the Egyptians as well, and there's like a whole bunch of things happening in the Mediterranean. There's evidence that there was Atlanteans then, but does it mean that the continent was still relevant, or was it the colonies? Something I teach often is that anything around the Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, is Atlantean influence, and that continues now. Anything around the Pacific Ocean is Lemurian influenced. And so when you have a place like Central America where it's so thin, right, and you have the Atlantic and Pacific right on each side, that place in particular is going to be a hub, a spiritual hub for this joining of Lemurians and Atlanteans, versus like if we're talking about Greece and Egypt, that's pretty much pure Atlantis, and something like Hawaii and Thailand is going to be pure Lemuria.
I love talking to you. So for the context of the Earth, I've understood that Lemuria was sort of the first civilization prior to Atlantis, more ancient than Atlantis, and sort of their higher beings sort of set up camp here from the very beginning. Does your research show similar?
I've read that it's about 4.5 million years old, and that the people of Mu come from a system outside of our solar system. I always find in Akashic readings, based on that person's soul, one person I read with, and it's not super clear by memory anymore, but has shown me a history that far precedes Atlantis and Lemuria. Her soul was here like 2 or 3 billion years ago and doing the work then. So I think, to me, modern history is about 4.5 million years ago. What comes before that is fascinating, because I think, like, just like how we don't have a lot of evidence physically still of Atlantis and Lemuria, imagine what came 4 billion years ago, right? Like there's so many species that could have been here and left in that time period. So
I've heard about great whites coming here and populating the water with intelligence, like way before anything was here, like just ice, like snow bears, like planting stuff.
Right.
Like it's really fascinating. And my latest memory of Atlantis, so I went down with that ship. I got off on a ship at the last moment, went to Egypt, but Egypt was very snobby and judgmental. Very elitist.
I could see
I didn't like being there, and so they went over to Peru. And from my understanding, like, Atlantis is in full trade with Peru, China, Egypt, like most of where the ancient mysteries like moved into pyramids. Atlantis had been a huge trader with, from what I understood, and and I also understood Atlantis and Mu were at war. Like Atlantis wanted to control Mu, right, and dominate.
I try to defend that a lot. I get a lot of Lemurian hate on my page sometimes.
Oh, really? They're bitter?
I get, yes. And
you're still mad.
You can't judge us on what happened at the end. You have to look at the whole history, and you actually have to look at a galactic history. And the galactic history of Atlantis is one of golden ray light and green love. But when we see like things like Aquaman and the Atlantis cartoon and things like that, they're always portraying it during its fall. And its fall is like the fall of Rome. It's disgusting and it's cruel and it's all these things. So My memory of Lemuria, or some of my memories, is that number one, I did my training there on Earth to prepare me for my role in Atlantis.
Hmm.
And I ended up marrying my husband right now
That's funny.
is 1,000% Lemurian. As he stands, he's so Lemurian. He doesn't accept it. He doesn't talk about it.
Hmm.
But for us to be married and have children, it can't be. It can't be that we're at war all the time at that time, So
Yeah.
obviously, it gets to a point like that. But there's so much interaction. To me, I'm in Canada. It's like Canada and the United States. For the most part, we're incredible friends and allies. Are we going to
Mm-hmm.
agree on everything? No, but we
Hmm.
have each other's back. So it's not my experience to see the total destruction of Atlanteans laying waste to the Lemurians, but that's what is also recorded a lot and written in many people's channelings. And I can't argue against someone else's experience. It's just not mine.
I agree. Actually, I mean, I know Moo chicks were hot. I was always after the Moo women. But I was Atlantean. My father was a government official. He wanted to control Moo. He was one like kind of like a conservative war dog, I guess you would have like modern times. So
Yeah.
I was raised under a guy who wanted to dominate them and still acted like that in this lifetime. It's fascinating. My father in this life. So it's really interesting, just the politics of it and whatnot.
Right.
I also understood that Atlantis, at one point, had a pure connection to heaven.
Yeah.
That they literally had psychics and temples that asked heaven, and heaven told them, and they made policy, and they made law, like
Right.
literally governed by heaven. Is that you have research to that?
Well, the Atlanteans live by the law of one, right?
Mm.
When we're in balance, we live by the law of one. And even if there's like demigods, we only believe in one creator, and we follow his universal laws, and we treat others as we want to be treated. And in that golden era, which I said doesn't fall, as far as I can see, doesn't fall in any other realm, just ours, it brings in this era of peace. And then what you can
Mm.
accomplish past the fifth density would be incredible, right? So I always think Atlantis, it gets this bad rap because so many people are stuck in the trauma of it. And that's part.
Yes.
I didn't understand that until I really launched the Temples of Atlantis. I was doing a lot of Atlantean work prior to that. But I
Mm.
launched the Temples of Atlantis on February 2nd of 2022. And I did a master class on February 22nd of that
Mm.
month. And the amount of trauma that I activated on people was something I was not prepared for. And it made me change my outlook on Atlantis for me to really understand how hurt people are, how stuck they are. I would say a lot of the soul contracts have not been completed on Earth because
Nope.
of what happened in Atlantis.
Yes.
So if we look at the pattern of where did the bad Atlanteans go, they went to Chem. Number one, they went to Chem, right? Then they head up to Greece. They find place in Rome. Throughout what we know as standard history, from Rome, they really kind of dissipate, but then they come in Germany, and then they come in the USA, and they're very global. So I would say the warmongering that we see now are the exact same souls that caused all the problems
Yes.
20,000 years ago.
Praise. Yeah.
And they know it, though. They
Yeah.
know it.
Yes, they do.
Most of
Yes,
them
they
don't
do.
lose their
My
memory.
father did. My father did. He told me.
Wow.
They reincarnated as Bill Gates.
Yeah.
I mean, so these characters that we have are Atlantean mofos.
Mhm.
And the weird thing is, I discovered Atlantis. Well, first my father. I mean, I was raised with all of the myth, but when I started doing readings, and as Uranus went into Aquarius, started innovating the frequency, they started. I could see them unpacking memories, unpacking. And my clients didn't see it at first, but I had so much upbringing of the vibration through my father that I recognized right away. And I would say the fear of nuclear war, Atlantis. Anytime we have a fear of total destruction,
Yes.
genocide, that's
Yeah.
Atlantis.
It
All
is.
these like horrible things we've done.
Tsunamis,
Yes.
volcanoes, earthquakes. Like it's so much in that Atlantean era, which means that a massive change had to happen on the Earth for all those things to happen. And I think it's our collective agreement. I think we as a collective want to explore the darkness and what happens if we separate ourselves from source. And we've been doing it for a very long time. And I think we're finally ready to be like, okay, it's enough. Let's come back in. but it's really difficult. And I think a lot of people miss that point, because I know I did when my guides first told me to start researching about Atlantis. I was very dismissive. I was like, what? Who
That's
cares?
silly.
Who
Right.
cares? It doesn't even exist. It's just a city people are looking for. But once you understand, also, by the way, the city is a blueprint. So when people see Atlantis is the Sahara Desert, Atlantis is in Antarctica, Atlantis is here, Atlantis, yes, it is. It's literally all those places, because if you think about, let's just say North American downtowns, they're not very different from one another. They're basically built the exact same way, right?
Oh, yeah.
When we think of an Atlantean blueprint of that circular formation as described by Plato, that then gets copied into all colonies. And so there's a great book, again, Frank Joseph. This might be the Before Atlantis book he wrote, where he talks about that type of city being in the south of the USA, like somewhere in the New Orleans area. And they have that exact layout. And it's like, that's where Atlantis was. Atlantis is worldwide. So of course.
It's like America.
Right.
There's Walmarts everywhere. You know, like, it's the same Atlanteans. You know what I mean? Like there's the same stuff with Walmart and Kmart. And yeah, it's crazy. And do you believe, now my father said that Atlantis was mostly off the coast of Bimini, from what his psychic, lit up. He died, he went to West Palm Beach. He was very attracted to Southern Florida, hated the weather. But was always, he knew Atlantis was there. He felt it in his bones. He also told me that, that he was specifically involved in genetic experiments, making work and sex slaves, dumbing down the chromosomes, using crystals for weaponry. I even heard a rumor that the tilt of the Earth is tilted because of one of the accidents of Atlantis. That that it wasn't tilted then. I don't know if that's true, but believable, because it seemed very ego based. Like, or maybe that was just the faction that came in. Like, there's a lot of arrogance when I feel into Atlantis too.
There's a lot of arrogance because I really like this version described by, I can't remember his name right now.
It's one of those books.
It's a great book, and he talks about how about 50,000 years ago, people from Mars, who are like, if you go with the theory that most humanoids around our galaxy are actually all the same version. They're just on different timelines in different densities. So they're human, but they're a little bit different. So the Martian experiment is really about being in the divine masculine without a balance of the feminine. And so when Mars is like having these issues and they don't know where to go and what to do, when they spy Atlantis on Earth, they're like, this is where we have to go, because the people are so open and so ready. We can come in and boom. And so, when they come, at first the Atlanteans are very welcoming. Apparently these people set up camp somewhere in the Carolinas. And the Atlanteans are very like, we live by the law of one. We allow God's will to transform as it will. And it ends up being that a comet, some kind of destructive thing, comes for these Martians. And it only hits them. It doesn't hit any other part of the Earth. It only hits them. And after that, the gloves are off. And these beings who are very imbalanced in their divineness, right, in their divinity, they end up spiritually raping the Atlanteans. So they do that. It's an inundation of like 20 to 100 entities per Atlantean. Now, depending how strong your practices are, maybe you can overcome that, maybe. But for a lot of them who are maybe starting to waver in their structure of the law of one, it becomes this intoxicating
thrill, like cocaine or something.
Right, like
pure ego, pure satisfaction.
Yes, and then they become very cold. They become very disconnected. They become very scientific, making these governments, making these war machines. I don't think Atlantis was about war in its golden era. It was far from that. When you talked about the connection to heaven before, I really feel like when you come to Earth in this modern era, as I said, like the last 4.5 million years, you come first to Lemuria to really ground and understand who this goddess is that you're living with. What does it mean to embody a human body? And how can we connect our heart and our lower chakras to the earth to be fully human? Now, if we take a step up from that, in the Atlantean era, they're coming from Lemuria. They have their hearts very open and activated. But now in Atlantis, you're going to work on your upper chakras. And so once you get to the
Mm.
crown chakra, you're not going to stop there, because the crown is the limitation of the physical body. Now we're going to talk about the causal chakra, the soul
Mm.
star, the stellar gateway. And this is where we have direct connection and openness with all these other realms, right? With the Arcturians, with the Lyrans, with the Palladians, and so forth, because
Mm.
there's no pretense that we're alone. It's a full galactic community. And I've done thousands of golden Atlantean healings, and I have met a few souls that I know came from other parts of the galaxy to Atlantis for healing, because the healing was so beautiful, because it was always a mix of what the Orions taught us and what the Polaris.
Wow.
And so maybe other realms kind of keep to themselves or only want their technology and their teaching.
Mhm.
But the Atlanteans were like, give it all to me. And then they took it and they create this golden Atlantean healing. And it's some of the most beautiful in all of the galaxy. And so when I've shared these healings, and I only do them now at retreats. I don't do in-person stuff from my home anymore. Uh,
Mm.
the things that I have seen and witnessed, this is why I know about the Andromedans, because Source sent me an Andromedan priestess. This is how I met the Arcturians and the Syrians, through the Atlantean work. And so everything that I do is a gateway through Atlantis that then opens something else up. And I can say it's very organic. I didn't look for it. I wasn't asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what my consciousness has shown me. And so I
Mhm.
continue to trust it as much as I can as I
You bring
walk.
up a very good point that I'm very glad you did, because people hear this stuff. I mean, this is the most whacked out stuff I get into, right? As far as the society is concerned. And they don't realize that your soul like planned to remember this. You can burn down the Library of Alexander, but the people who
Right,
wrote the books come back. They remember the books. They write the books again.
right,
Consciousness recycles these truths. The fact that I was raised at very young age to believe this, and so I fully believe that. And I guess the message to people is, you just know. You just know, and you know when you know. And I think we're in a point now with Pluto and Aquarius to go astrology. First of all, I'll just share with you, clients that have high degree planets in Aquarius, like Uranus in Aquarius, Jupiter in Aquarius. I have Jupiter in Aquarius at 11 degrees, which means I have the memory of the integrity of the energy, and they're carrying these memories. And I can tell right away, as soon as I see the planet, I see their part in Atlantis. So it's like almost all of Atlantis reincarnated for this life.
yeah.
It's like a huge
It did.
stadium of Atlanteans, like,
It did.
yeah. And it's almost,
Yeah.
to me, it seems, not what I've seen in my third eye is, as far as the law of karma, and I don't know about the law of one, I haven't studied it enough, but in consciousness, it's like if you start a story and you don't finish it, you've got to finish it.
Right,
And Atlantis destroyed itself.
right.
It didn't get finished.
Yeah.
That's why we have the same bad guys. That's why we have the same good guys, because it was a stalemate, and so we didn't get the normally in karma. I mean, as you well know, I'm just saying for the audience, you find yourself on the other side. It's like if you were the bad guy, then you'd be the good guy. If the good guy, pagan, Christian, Christian, pagan. You see that back and forth. Even with my clients in psychic stuff, they were Mu, they were Atlantis, they were Mu, they were Atlantis. They were bouncing back and incarnating in both sides. But in this particular fight, if you want to call it, we got stopped. So we have to, in a way, pick up the same story.
Right. And I would say my experience is that no matter where I go and what I teach, who's ever in that seminar or course or whatever it is, it's 50% Atlantean, 50% Lemurian.
Oh,
And
no kidding.
somebody was asking about this crystal. This is an Atlantean spinel.
Mm.
And it's such a truth teller. It's amazing. Lemurians will be like, what is that? Atlantean spinel. From Atlantis? Yeah. Oh, and they'll back off.
Wow.
Atlanteans will be like, what
Like,
is that?
That's me. I'm like, it's pretty.
Yeah. And they're like, what is it? Like, where did you get it from? I'm like, it's from Atlantis. And they love it. And so I'll know right then and there who is healed from Atlantis and who isn't. And his name's Atlan, by the way. And Atlan is a master healer. He has stored all of my wisdom from Atlantis since the inception that I've been with Atlantis, which in my theory is about 17 billion years. I mean, Atlantis have
Wow.
been
You
one.
planet to planet, you just, all the circus train.
And he, like, so even this conversation we're having, he's loading it in here, right? He's loading your father's memories, what you've learned, and he's loading it, and then I can access it as time goes on. So I have a softer stone, a complete one like this, that's very Lemurian. And Lemurians love it. What is that? That's so beautiful. I'm like,
Wow.
mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. And so my assumption is it's hovering over your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like ancient Atlantis technology.
I think so. I've been wearing things over my third eye probably for about 15 to 20 years. I never had a piece that fit until I got Atlan.
It just
When I got him, because you have to have vibrational analysis. You don't just go buy these gems. They're actually made for you, for your frequency to amplify different things in your life. So,
this stone that you're wearing was made for you.
well,
Or
the
the
gem
universe.
blower will say that it
This
was
is
made for me.
right.
Nobody in the world has this stone with this size and
It
this
claimed you. Mhm.
right. But like when you're trying them on, she's like, put it here. And I said, I will never wear it there. For the most part, it's going to be up here. And as soon as I did that, she's like, oh, I see what you're about to do. And I said, okay. So for anybody that hasn't had that practice, when you put a crystal over your third eye, not only does it cleanse it, it amplifies what your skills, your memories, your abilities are.
Wow.
So
That's
it's
cool.
really it's really recommended if you're seeking to know yourself and your ancient self. What I would do is lay down for about 15 to 20 minutes of meditation. Wear something powerful in your third eye, like a high vibrational amethyst, clear quartz, Lemurian quartz, if you want, whatever. You put it on there, and then you address your past life chakras. I would also probably use something like Atlantisite or Lemuria or Larmar maybe,
Hmm.
but you put them on your past life chakras, and
Which
then
are
you
where? Which are where?
your past life chakras are right here.
Behind your ears?
Yeah, like right where your
Wow.
skull starts to wrap into your neck. So right where
Huh.
that last little bulge is. So those are your past
Wow.
life chakras. If you link them up in pyramid form, and Atlantans love pyramid,
Wow.
if you link it up and you meditate, this is going to be how you're going to start to pull some of those memories through if you're having a hard time doing it. If you're trying to, bring up Atlantean lifetimes, then I would recommend something on the solar plexus like citrine to bring back your power, because a lot of us were disempowered
Mm.
during that fall of Atlantis. And we want to think about the fall of Atlantis as a period of over 10 to 15,000 years. It didn't happen like that,
Right.
right? We're in the golden era. We come post golden era, and then eventually things really start speeding downhill. But for a
Mhm.
while, it was incredible.
Yeah, incredible. And I think like that's my deepest wounds. Just when things are going good, it's gonna go wrong. That's my
Well,
deepest wound.
it's a law of balance, right? If
Hmm.
the law of balance, which is a universal law, does talk about that. But what happens, I think, on our paths is that the more you stabilize in your spirituality, the less up and down you get. It's not as
Yeah.
drastic. And
Yeah.
I had a conversation with myself probably about 6 months ago, talking about the fall of Atlantis. I said, why did it have to hurt so much? Why has
Mm.
it, it's really done a number on so many people here.
Mm.
And it's like, Priscilla, because if you're going to go that high, if you're on Earth, if you're going to be the highest of the fifth dimension, like almost knocking on the sixth, then when you fall, the balance has to be that low. They're like, the good news is now, as we're moving into New Atlantis, New Lemuria, it's not going to be like this. It's going to be more like this. And that's manageable, right? So the good
Totally.
times can continue. Maybe you just need a breath just to integrate. And you
Mhm.
deal with, a wound or a memory. And then you come back into that really high vibration. I've noticed that on my path.
Mhm.
Probably
Mhm.
10 years ago, when I got depressed or worried, I would stay in that cycle for days upon
Me
days.
too. Me too.
And then eventually I moved it so I could only do it for hours. And now I can shift it 5 to 10 minutes.
Me too. I think it's part of my Jupiter awakening is Jupiter in Aquarius, which I think is holding all the records, in my blueprint. But I would go through periods of like the rent, like
Yeah.
creating a tragedy now that
Yes.
echoed the emotion of the Atlantis fall. And it
Mhm.
was as big of Atlantis falling, you know what I mean? Like, and it
Mhm.
was me not being able to handle that. And for people who can't having these memories, a lot of it's just the trauma. You're afraid of feeling it again. You're afraid of feeling it again. So you have to like just kind of remind yourself that was the past. We're alive. We obviously reincarnated. Everything's fine. You know what I mean? Like kind of reassure yourself, like, that everything's okay and just sort of let off some of that steam. With Pluto and Aquarius, though, I mean, as an astrologer, I don't know how much you study astrology, but it is absolutely just unlocking, 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 unlocking. And right now, Pluto's at 1 degree, which means our broken heart is unlocking.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of the Trump fear,
Right.
And, you know, all the stuff, all the conspiracy, everything, at the heart of the heart is the heart is quivering, you know, that it would happen again.
Right.
And both sides are both quivering that it'll happen again. Both sides, you know, of our conflicts in the United States, they're both worried about the same thing.
Yeah.
They just don't know who to blame, you know. And the real issue of the healing, I think, is just our power is with heaven. Our power is with the one.
Yes.
We gave it away to some assholes in Atlantis. We shouldn't have done that. That was
Right.
naive. And I think the other thing too in Atlantis, I want to add to your last point, was we'd never fallen before. What's a fall? You know, it's not just that you were
Isn't that
hot.
true? Isn't that true? Yeah.
Yeah,
never
and I
thought
found with
about
my,
it.
and we've never pulled ourselves out of the gutter before either. That's why these lifetimes suck so much. It's like we never pulled ourselves out of a gutter in that ancient community. We never fell. We never had bad guys that stab you in the back. And all of Hollywood and everything is just like this echo of the echo of the echo of the same
Right.
narrative. It's incredible. So I want to
think,
ask.
sorry, I think that's
No,
why
go ahead.
they work so hard to damage our third eye. When your third eye is open, you can't have that level of deceit. It's impossible. Right? So
Mm,
Golden Atlantis, when we think about that we're seeing in fourth and fifth densities, that means as I'm looking at you, I see exactly what your chakras are. I can see your auric field. So I know what kind of thoughts you're having. I know if you're ill or if you're balanced. And it's so easy because there's healing temples everywhere. You go right away. If I was like, hey man, your sacral chakra is blocked. What?
yeah.
I better go to the temple, right? But now as this veil comes down of illusion, everything is hidden and secreted. And then of course people can get away with the propaganda because we only have one narrative instead of the full perspective. Now, this is I'm raised Catholic. This is not to offend anyone. This is my perception. When you're baptized as a Catholic, they put a black ash, a black cross
Oh my God.
over your third eye. What are they doing? They're trying to stop you from using your God-given gifts as you
Wow.
go through. If we think about the COVID protocols, what were they doing? They were putting a red light into your third eye, either way that you look at it. And
that
so,
disturbed me too. I didn't like
yeah,
that.
fluoride, right? Fluoride in the water. What does? It calcifies. Our third eye is the most attacked chakra as a
Wow.
global species. The reason they do that is because when it's operating, you will always see the truth. I don't
Yep.
fall into a lot of propagandas and pandemics because I can see so clearly.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but it
And
takes
I
practice.
see it in lots of things. I see the shutting down of emotion is valid because emotion would sort of would affirm those third eye visions. So it's like, you silly girl, you're emotional, you need to get a hold of yourself. You know, the idea of not even checking your heart, don't be a fool, be what's logical. All these conversations to get us into the mind, only the mind,
Right.
which is debatable by evidence and scientific study, and just keeping them in this mental, you know, keeping civilization imprisoned in this mental state only of awareness. Yeah. It's fascinating. So who were you in Atlantis?
I have a hard time sharing sometimes
Oh, you
because
don't
I
have
don't.
to.
No, I'm going to, but I know that it can sound from ego, and I would never claim it if it
Right.
wasn't true. But because my soul is married to Atlantis, okay, this is the way that Creator has shown me. When my soul was born, 17 billion years ago, Atlantis was born. And so I'm like a mother of Atlantis that goes from
Ah,
realm to realm, bringing through that golden frequency. And so I get to be Queen Atlanta. And for a long time, I was wondering when I'm doing all my journeys and all my meditations, I'm like, why am I always Queen Atlanta everywhere I go? Like, shouldn't I? Like, sometimes it's like Queen Atlanta, Queen, like, it's always like the AT or AL. And I'm like, I'm not original at all, my soul. I'm like, why am I always picking the same name? But I need to do that so that people recognize me across the galaxy and can really trust that frequency. So when I came to Atlantis on Earth, I wasn't like, hey, the queen is here. I own this place now. I
yeah.
took my time. I trained through a beautiful priestess lineage in Lemuria. I came through an Atlantean lineage. I wasn't born into royalty in terms of being in this body. I worked hard for it to be trustworthy and to be worthy, period. And so my feeling in the golden Atlantean era was that in the body as Queen Atlanta, I lived in that body for 30,000 years. So I was there at the peak of Atlantis. I was there during the fall of Atlantis. And then I helped places like the Mayas, all around the Atlantic Mediterranean Ocean. I helped them establish those Atlantean colonies in ways that would preserve the knowledge. I don't like to present myself like that because I think people be like, oh, F, who does this girl think she is?
Not our audience. Not our audience. No.
That's good. I
You're in
try
family.
to hold it back, but
No, totally. I mean, I think, Bill Gates would call you bull, that kind
I
of
would
thing.
have a great discussion with Bill Gates.
I
I'd be
would
like,
love to talk to
you
Bill
want to
too.
talk
I've
about
got
lies
word.
and illusions? Let's go, buddy.
Let's talk, buddy. Let's talk about what virus really is.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And I was a Syrian that decided to hop over at some point, from what I understand. And I believe that, as I get deeper into spirituality, just for people who might think that that's a whacked idea. No, that's not the way God works. I know I'm a multi-planet. I've ascended more than one planet. I know it's a whole career. Like there are souls in
Career.
it's a career. There's there's like, I'm going to, follow the existence of the Milky Way. I mean, our sun is a soul that's like, I'll just blink for 1,000,000 years for
Right.
y'all. Like
Yeah.
it's all consciousness playing roles, and there's fascinating roles you can play. And, I know it sounds beyond belief, but once you start to see beyond that veil, it's very common. Right.
And it's really beautiful because
Yeah.
from what we're taught, through religion, through the structure of this realm, we're taught we have one lifetime and that's it. And it's like,
Christians. Yeah. Yeah.
right, it's like how, if your soul, my parents, when they were arguing with me about this about 5 years ago, because, they're Catholic. And I said, listen, I'm like, do you believe that the soul is eternal? They're like, absolutely. Then why would a baby die 2 days after it was born and never learn another lesson again in their whole existence? How does that make sense to
Yeah.
do that? And they're like, you could tell like their brain was like,
Uh-oh.
formed. Yeah. And now I've been on this path for 13-ish years, I think 12, 13 years. Now my parents are talking about astral travel,
Wow.
lives. Yeah, my parents are in their mid 70s. So I am so proud of where they've come because it was really hard for them to allow me to pursue this path. They had a lot of fears. And my parents are, by the way, extremely Atlantean. Extremely Atlantean.
Mine
And
too.
the
The
more I
same
go,
parents. I have the same parents.
yes. These
same.
parents at some point, the Atlantean era, when I was there, my dad is a master carpenter in this lifetime, but he was a master temple builder at that time. And my mom has always had the aesthetic. So if you think about Atlantis would have, gardens that would way outweigh anything from the Palace of Versailles or anything close to it because they're in such a geometry. There's all these crystals, these incredible flowers. Those would be like what my mom would plant. This has to be planted here, this has to be here, and they're the exact same way. And once I started understanding who they were, I go, okay, I got them now. And it's so much easier to be with them and be open with them. Even if they don't, even if they don't talk about it. Most of my family loves Egypt, Greece, Italy. Why do you think you love that? I don't know.
Just love it.
Because you're Atlantean. No. Why do you think we all love it? Because that's our home. That whole area, if you think about Atlantis coming through the Pillars of Hercules into the Mediterranean Sea, which then again, there's lots of countries around that area, that becomes our home. I just watched Troy 2 weeks ago after not seeing it for like 10 years.
A movie? Yeah.
Yeah, Troy, it's a movie from the early 2000s.
Yep.
I couldn't believe how happy my soul was. What does my soul love? Pyramids, temples, headdresses, priestesses, and beautiful jewelry. I'm fascinated. And I've been like that for as long as I can remember. So me too, for anyone searching, your soul always knows whatever you were passionate and loving and infatuated by as a child, that's your blueprint for who you are in this lifetime. And my guides told me that, but Priscilla, why do you think you love Greece and Egypt? I'm like, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. Why do you think you were from there? I'm like, because I'm from there. But when you think about the central colony being Atlantis, it makes so much more sense.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I feel like, skipping ahead to the present, I feel the United States is Atlantis too.
Absolutely. It is.
Forefathers were, I don't know who they were, but they were Atlantean. And, we're going to rebuild it.
Right. And I would say Native Americans are also very Atlantean.
Oh, interesting.
I have a strong, I have a lot of indigenous lines in my family. I said, this nose is not only indigenous, it's also very Atlantean. And I'm like, I've had that nose forever on this
Every
planet.
lifetime?
Yeah. Like it keeps coming out that way, but it shows your heritage. I really do believe too. I know we have different ancestry on the planet now, but if you go back you will see how you're connected. So one of the things that always shocks people is that redheads come from Atlantis, because
Really?
Ireland, the UK, with Scotland, those are direct colonies from Atlantis. We
Mm.
have a lot of blondes and a lot of redheads that come from Atlantis that again then spread out. So it was my
Yeah. Yeah,
suspicion.
once.
It was my suspicion for many years that Greek mythology, thereby Roman mythology,
Hmm.
Egyptian, Hindu, Norse mythology, Celtic mythology, that they were all Atlanteans.
Hmm.
Now, as I'm reading books from the 1800s, this has already been confirmed by these writers that know where these things come from. So when we think about mythology, it's the actual telling of the Atlanteans, but of course it gets in this really big grand story. But if we
Yeah.
think about Zeus and Athena or Osiris and
Yes.
Isis, these
Mm.
people are real high priests and priestesses or kings and queens of Atlantis that did
Yes.
extraordinary things, that they became legendary and that they became elevated into a god or goddess. It doesn't mean that they're not creation gods, but they get elevated just like how the Catholic Church will make certain people into saints after
Saints.
they die. It's a very similar thing. And then
Hmm.
what those people do is they bring that Atlantean knowledge to Finland, to Denmark, to the
Right.
right. Like it's so like the more you read, the more you're like, I knew that. But it's just nice to have someone help you connect the dots, and then it's so beautiful. And so, like I said, I get a fair amount of haters. Like I'd say maybe like 10% of haters on my page. Some of them are very threatening. Like, you don't know crap about Atlantis. Da 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 da. I'm like, I'm not here to educate you. I'm here to educate everyone that's open to it. But man, don't call me out on something that happened 10,000 years ago when I'm talking about history that's 17 billion years old. When you can have my perspective, then we can have a good chat. Until
Mm.
then,
Yeah.
let's leave it be.
These are people who haven't processed their anger. And so you're such a crystal, you're just bringing
Right.
it all up, and
Right.
in a very modern way, they're projecting it onto you, and so if you can't come neutral, wait. you know, I mean, God showed me in so many ways. I remember I was 19, I went to a numerology reading. I sit in front of this woman who is very, crystalled out in her house.
Hmm.
She sits down and she tunes and she's like, "Oh my God, your father's the one that killed my husband in Atlantis." So it's like, once you open up to the possibility, you're just affirmed in magical ways you just cannot deny, and that's the process of remembering. So what is an Atlantean priestess now? Like, that's one of your titles. How
Right.
does one become it? How did you transition into that?
I think Atlantean priestess is someone number one that's devoted to golden Atlantis, which means that we're not going to hold fear about what happened at the fall, which a lot of
Yeah.
priestesses do. There's a big priestess wound, witch wound, sister wound there. But Atlantean priestess, because we're trained, like I'm saying, like in Atlantis, we're living 10 to 30,000 years easy. Okay, so
A person?
yes. So
Wow.
when you're coming through a priestesshood, you're apprenticing at different levels for a very long time, right? So that first 10,000 years might just make you a priestess. In that 10,000 years, you're going to learn all about Earth, about the galactics, how to heal with water, how to heal with sound, how to use crystal technology, how to use fire. Like it's such a beautiful education, and there's no rush from it. Maybe the next 10,000 years after that, you're a high priestess. And maybe after that, you're a grand high priestess if you're still living there. But
Hmm.
it's a devotional path to healing and to truth and integrity. So I always say the temples I serve the most out of is the temple of truth and the temple of healing, the temple of the golden ray. But when I on my Atlantean priestess page, I do a lot of truth bombs. Some people like them, some people don't. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's the way I'm built. I'm a priestess from the temple of truth, and when I see lies, I'm going to call them out. It's not
Mm.
for everybody, right? But I'm just launching. I'm in launch mode right now for the Atlantean Priestess Collective. I've been working on it for 3 years. I got the signal in November. It's finally time to go on it. And a lot of the whole point of that program is to serve as a mentor to 12 other women who are ready to embody their Atlantean selves once again. That means you know that you're ancient. You know that you're not just of Earth. You understand that you have a very beautiful history throughout the galaxy, maybe even in other universes. And you're ready to bring the golden light back through, which can be, again, through, through speaking the truth, but it's also about being your authenticity. If you're really a healer, a teacher, I don't know, a sound therapist, if you're really good with herbs, why are you hiding it? Why are you hiding that 9 to 5 job that's killing your soul, right? So it's about pulling it out. But the Atlantean priestess, for me, that lineage in this lifetime, it just the more I studied Reiki and different healing modalities, the more I was like, this is what I'm here for. I was a dance teacher for 25 years, and I loved it, and I still love dance.
Mm.
But I could see where I was getting pulled. And I thought, I can't deny this. Yes, I can help, generations of dancers, which is wonderful, but I can also help people that really feel lost and don't know who they are. So it's a beautiful path, but it's gonna make you face your fears, and you're
Mhm.
gonna have to bring out your gifts and skills once again. This is what I try to teach people. Like, well, I can't do what you can do. I said that exact same thing in 2013 when I started this path, and I had my first reading, and someone's like, "Why are you here
Mhm.
for a reading? You can do everything I can do." No, I can't. That's crazy. This is a bad reading. In my head, I'm like, this is a bad reading.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But it's your devotion to your path. And I see a lot of people back away from their spiritual path. I'm not sure why I didn't. I dove head in. And as soon as I started, I wanted to know Reiki, and I did everything I could to learn about fairies and unicorns. And then I come into the Atlantean era, or my Atlantean frequency, and it totally blew the lid off everything. My first day I trained in Atlantean healing, I went down to Texas, near Houston.
Mm.
As a couple from the UK, and within an hour of that class, I said, I know exactly what I'm here for. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. And then when we were practicing healing on one another, that's how I met the Arcturians. I didn't know anything about the Arcturians, and that's
Mm.
why it's so true to me. Because I know there's a lot of talk about the Galactic Federation, and there's all these different channelers, and some people I think are really grounded and rooted in their knowledge.
Mhm.
And I think some people like to fantasize a lot.
Mhm.
But
They're
when
taking seeds and they're running with it. Yeah.
Right. When the Arcturians showed themselves to me, though, I was astounded. And that's also how I met the Syrians. I was doing
Mm.
Atlantean healings on a Lionsgate portal, or what we call Lionsgate portal 888. And
Mm.
on the beaches of Vancouver Island, and I was sharing distance healings at that time. And I saw this blue crystal pyramid rise out of the Pacific Ocean.
Mm.
And then it shone a light. I didn't have this crystal yet. It shone a light right into my third eye. And it's like, Priscilla, you are now connected to Sirius. I'm like, what? I'm like, what is Sirius? Like, what is going on?
Seriously.
Yeah, seriously. And that's just how it opens. So I think that if you bring your vibration to a level like that, and you're open in a great way, beautiful things align. But if you're going to only open and then you're going to shutter back because you're scared of what happened to you before,
Mhm.
then those people that punished you have won. They have won dominion over your soul lifetime after lifetime. It doesn't matter that my head's been cut off or I've been pushed off cliffs, and we all have those stories. You're
Mhm.
not That's not where you are today. You're here, you're now, you're breathing, you're safe. What are you going to do with the wisdom of your soul? And once you
Mhm.
start taking action on it, like for me, I have a slow growth. I think it's a slow growth on my page. But for some reason this year, people want to know about Atlantis. Last year, the year before, this year.
Pluto. I say Pluto. I say Pluto. Yeah. I think
Mhm.
it's just going to grow for every year. I mean, you might as well borrow money against it.
Well, Hades is a powerful king of Atlantis. Hades is the ruler of Spain, and the underworld means Spain and lower than that,
Boy,
right?
they were cruel fucking people.
Hades is a very powerful king of Atlantis. He's a great king of Atlantis. He gets
Oh,
a bad
really?
rap, but
Mm.
he brings the balance of the darkness with the light, because we can't all be here, 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 here.
Right.
You
Right.
have to see what your demons and
Wow.
your shadows are, and he's really good at showing us that. So I got good respect for Pluto. Of course, I love Poseidon and Neptune. Oh my gosh, that's my guy.
Wow. So much to unpack in Atlantis. Just to kind of like give a couple of things. There was a lot. It feels like, so you probably heard on the internet, rumors and whatnot, healing beds and, these new technologies to instantly heal us and frequency healing. To me, this is all what was available in
Oh,
Atlantis every day, like for
blueprint,
free, just walk in and re-heal your body,
right?
bring yourself back up to 100% vibration.
Yeah.
Do you foresee these things unfolding legitimately, or is it just cracking open?
Oh, I had a vision in 2020, right at about March of 2020, because my business wasn't online at that time, and my
Mm,
obviously it tanked, right? Because I wasn't allowed to have people in my house. And my guide said, Priscilla, you need to prepare because
mm.
once more people awaken, they're going to run en masse from the Western medical system. They're going to run.
Yeah.
And what are they going to want? Frequency healing, crystals, sound healing, what herbs, what oils should I use? So I think that's all coming back. And I
Mm.
see it. I see it all the time. I think a lot of the med bed technology is actually Orion med bed technology, or at least
Oh,
that's my
really?
experience. I don't feel in Atlantis we had a lot of med beds because the vibration was so high. You can sit on a slab of crystal, right? If we picture this at a healing temple, a healing room has a slab of crystal that you lay on. You have
Hmm.
many priestesses and priests playing these high frequency tones. You have dolphins swimming around you that are also clearing that energy.
Really? Like a little moats? Yeah.
Yeah, if you know that unicorns are master healers in this universe. You have a
Mm,
unicorn at the top of your head and your feet.
mm.
You don't need technology outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need God's frequency. And those beings together bring that, right? When we have the Syrian dolphins there, their knowledge is so vast that them just by like chirping and giggling through is going to bring an immense healing. So an Atlantean healing is so profound and so deep. I might only see somebody once in a lifetime
Yes.
and just be like, oh, okay, man,
Mhm.
I'll catch you 20,000 years from now. We'll see if we know each other. And I'll bring that up too. I teach cosmic conscious Reiki, which is my own Reiki, but it's based on the foundation of UC Reiki with Karuna Reiki and Atlantean Reiki. Now, before I was even embodying this, I would have students when I was doing their attunements in person be like, Priscilla, I saw you in Atlantis with this ginormous crystal headpiece. And she's like, you've attuned me before. And I really think any of my Reiki students, I have attuned them not just before, but perhaps hundreds to thousands of times. And every time we have that connection, I feel so honored that they found me again, that somehow I get to guide part of their life or mentor part of their life again, because it's such beauty and there's so much love there. And they knew those things before I knew them. I'm like, a large crystal headpiece. I'm like, I would love it.
Mhm.
I don't know where that is, but I,
Yeah. I would say, a percentage of people watching this show knew me in Atlantis. I was an astrologer in Atlantis.
amazing.
And I was looking, and I fully remember my whole knowledge of astrology just opened. I didn't study. I don't tell many people that, but I'm being more honest about it now. I just knew. It's funny how you keep these sort of skill sets, right, through time and energy. And one thing I want to bring up, my guys are poking me about it, is you were talking about your parents and how you had an adversary, relationship to them, and as they've awakened, you feel better and you feel more connected. For everyone out there, it's like after Atlantis, we were hurt so badly that we just kept reincarnating with these fellow citizens in painful, horrible situations and created all these like painful memories of violence and hate, after Atlantis, because we'd fallen so hard. We were literally like in the gutter, like homeless, kind of energy. And so I found with my clients, you're not going to have any memories of Atlantis until you clear that middle age, dark ages, those
Mm,
wounds. They just don't, you can't see past
hard,
them.
right?
Hmm.
That's a lot of terrible torture.
Totally. Hmm.
I was in York, England in 2016, and they were talking about the hung, drawn, and quartered torture they used to do.
Oh.
As soon as I walked into that, whatever city, town, whatever it is, I was like, oh God, I've been executed here before. And then they started talking about that. And I saw my legs get ripped apart by two horses.
Wow.
I can't, I can't be in this country. London was very, very hard for me to be in, period. But
Hmm.
England and we're not energetic friends. I have no desire to go back. If I need to, I will. But it's really incredible how the land keeps those codes in for you.
Yep.
And I've seen this with all the
Yes.
research that I do, is that whenever you walk upon that land once again, it
Yep.
doesn't matter if you're there with spiritual intention or not.
Hmm.
Those codes will shoot through you because you left them there. You
Yep.
left them there for your future timeline. And now you're collecting them. That's why when people come to certain parts, like, this is my home, or F no, I got to get out of here. Right. Like it's so beautiful, this journey. But if we just stay like this in the little 3D box they want us to, We miss all the magic. I never believed in unicorns. Not even as a kid did I
I
believe
know
in.
it's like so hokey and yeah.
Right.
Plus, I
And
mean,
then,
commercialism has made it stupid on a purpose. Like
yeah,
it's been made stupid. It's like selling Lucky Charms. I mean, like they're, like they've really just. I mean,
cheapen it almost.
yeah. I mean, basically, we've been made to think we're stupid and silly for everything that was true. You
So
know,
clever. It's so
it's
clever
very.
to
They're
do that.
so clever. Yeah,
I,
it's
I
really
always hand it to them. They are
the
very
most clever. Evil
patient.
people are fucking clever.
Yeah, and they're
You
very,
know?
very clever. They can. I read a whole God. It was like 200 pages of what happened at the Montreal Olympics, and like I think that was like in the 60s. How they had this meeting, and the notes from this meeting, they were
Wow.
planning things in the 60s for the 80s, the 90s. I was reading stuff about
I
Ataris,
know.
Nintendos. It was
Yes.
crazy, and
All
I'm
the
like,
like when you hear the Rockefeller
no,
stuff, it's
those are
like
patient.
even like Rockefeller stuff, like in 19, like the COVID 1908 isn't they planned it, like energetically for that to happen. They have like the Atlantean timelines and keeping the bloodlines pure and all that stuff is like almost to keep those timelines. It does take 100 years to change the world. It does take 200 years, 300 years. There's a wisdom there and a determination, to dominate and control. Here's a question. I have memories, of, I mean, my father was in the government in Atlantis and he was also medical stuff. He's an engineer. In fact, actually, you might find interesting. My father, in the 80s, built all the safety systems for nuclear reactors in the United States. So my father would go from reactor to reactor to reactor, certify, 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 and then in his last, final job, they made software around my dad's wisdom, and he died. And he basically said to me, "This is my last thing, karma. I got to give him nuclear safety. That's for fucking up Atlantis." Yeah, that aware. Yeah. And
Cool
as
to
soon as
come
it was
into
complete,
a
he
life
died.
like that.
He was paying price the whole life and he knew it. That's why he's an alcoholic. He's like, this sucks. I got to pay for everything I've done. He was very aware.
I would what that piggybacks on is a reading I did 2 years ago. I saw that most homeless men in particular, addicts that are
Mm.
alcoholics, drug addicts on this planet are fractured soul from Atlantis. And when we think about that final battle between dark and light, what I
Mhm.
saw, number one, I saw there was a lot of dragons, and they were beautiful. I saw this like army of really wonderful Atlanteans, very proud, very rooted in their souls, in their light. Now, as they're coming to kind of attack their brothers, which they don't want to do, right? Because all these Atlanteans have been flipped. It was
Mm.
almost like this cloud of darkness came over them, and immediately it switched them.
Intoxication.
They
They're
didn't,
intoxicated.
they didn't have a chance to fight against it. And so now they're going this way to fight, but now they all of a sudden they turn around, now they're attacking who they were just with. And that broken part of so many masculine has really stayed on our planet. And so when we think of these men that are born into these abusive households, or however they get this trauma to bring back that alcoholism, now I cried in that reading, and I was trying to hold it
Mm.
back from my client because it was so real for me that it
Mm.
changed my perspective. I live in Edmonton, a lot of homeless. It's hard to be homeless here, by the way. It's down to like minus 30 Celsius, right, in the winter. So it's a very, very hard thing to do. And I just feel like, man, I have this responsibility to help heal Atlantean souls. It doesn't mean I can go up to them and be like, oh, guess what? You're from Atlantis. But
Mhm.
the more work I do on myself, and that ripples out into my clients and my followers, then the more we help heal it. So
Mhm.
it's fascinating
Well,
because someone that has that awareness and chooses to be an alcoholic with it, it's
yes.
such a heavy burden to wear, knowing that you helped sink it. But maybe your dad doesn't know this. I say every week someone comes into my inbox like, Priscilla, I fucked it all up. I'm the one that ruined Atlantis. I'm like, no, man. It's not
No.
it's
No.
not just you. It's like 20 million of us. We all collectively decided
Yeah.
this is the way we're going to experience life on the planet. It can't be you. It's me. I did it. I'm like, no, quit.
Yeah.
Don't have that burden. Don't do that to yourself. Because I
Yeah.
help women do that too. I betrayed the priestesses, and I'm the one that sold them out, and then Atlantis fell. You're only one temple. Atlantis
Right.
has like
Right.
infinite temples.
Right.
You're not
Well,
responsible.
I find that when you're getting glimpses of a memory, You mix it up with myth, you mix it up with what you'd heard about other people.
Right.
Like it's just part of the youth of waking up to your past lives. Everyone was Cleopatra for a moment until you realized you saw Cleopatra in real life one day in Egypt.
Right.
And that was such a powerful memory. You just assumed seeing Cleopatra was like a message to you. So it's like pulling apart the memories. It takes a long time, energetically. And, I think also it's funny because my father is very interesting in the sense that, yeah, he fully owned it,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? But there's also an ego pride there, so it's like,
He's happy.
he was
I
proud
get
he
it.
pulled it off. Like, I bring that bitch down. But it was a team of dark people. And what I was going to say to you, and we're running out of time already. I want to talk about what you do. But I remember Crafts Landing. I remember deals, with dark aliens for technology. There's a lot of dark shit going on with the government and aliens that wanted to take us over because they considered us weak and, wanted Earth for themselves. I mean, it's very complicated politics, right?
Right.
Of all that stuff. So you have inspired a lot of people, and I'm super excited to meet you. Where does one start? I mean, I would say, I just want to put this out there first.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like by the time I'm ready to check out, this is common. Like, as far as I know how whacked out it sounds now about all this stuff, because we have been fed so many lies and so many different history lines. And so you just got to open up and be like, oh, maybe. But I feel like it'll be common knowledge. I feel like the new souls coming are fully aware. They're not going to block the memories.
Right.
What sounds cuckoo right now may sound cuckoo. However you're judging it, which is your pain from Atlantis, by the way. If you're judging it, you're still hurting. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, why would you have a reaction?
Right.
But in that context, how can we work with you? What do you do for humans right now? You have 12 very special women probably following in your footsteps. That's probably an intensive. How long does that take? 30,000 years, you said?
I'm going to condense it all in 1 year. We're going to start it. I think a great way to start working with me is a reading, is an Atlantean Akashic activation.
Ooh.
Those bring in a lot of wisdom, and they're not just about Atlantis. That's just the frequency I have, but it can explore anywhere your soul has been since its inception. So it can be anywhere in the Galactic. It could be anywhere on Earth. That's a great way. I do have some freebies on my website, including the Atlantean Awaken transmission. If you don't quite know what you were doing in Atlantis, that will help at least awaken it. There's a small mini course, Journey Through Chem, which will take you from the fall of Atlantis, which Thoth or Thoth, that great Atlantean teacher, will help you heal. And then you're going to go on Chem and see what you did in Egypt. That's a great, great place to start. I love the Galactic Temples of Light membership. We don't get a lot about Atlantis in that. I do try to share history of each galactic star nation and how it relates to Atlantis, but it's really about your multidimensional self. That's a membership. Everything I do, to be honest, is long. It's like a year-long commitment. Everyone's like, why, Priscilla? I just want to do a membership for 3 months. Because as an Atlantean and Assyrian, if you're going to come into my container, I want you to have the wisdom and a fuller picture. I don't want you just to like be blipped open and then go do some destruction somewhere. You need to have a much bigger picture of it. So those are great entry points. After that, cosmic conscious Reiki levels 1 through 3 works with the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, and the Sirians and their healing technologies. Levels 4 through 6 is with the Seven Sisters of the Pleiades, who are the Atlantises, the Centaurians, and the Orions, and it keeps going. So those are great things. If you decide to attend a retreat with me, I always prep you for it. Okay, it's never going to be, hey, I'll show you, I'll see you there, I'll see you in Greece. No. We're going to work about 10 to 12 weeks beforehand with the Atlantean gods and goddesses, right? Because I want you to be able to have that information, that activation before we even get there. Because it's really hard to meditate at the Parthenon, right, with thousands of people there. So we do the work before. That's when I do my one-on work. That's when I get to do the crystal activations. These are my very sacred friends. All these guys come. That's great. For the Atlantean Priestess Collective, I've just launched it. There's 4 women that I've accepted. There's a few more applications I have to go through. But it is a full year program. It meets with me once a month, but then it also has a guest priestess. Most of them are from Canada, the US, but I have some from Europe and the UAE. And it's a beautiful collection of Atlantean priestesses coming back once again to encourage you and to mentor you. And then that gives you readings once a month through Akashic coaching, which I think would be great. But the thing is, know, even with what I probably shared on there, I know it's a lot. And I always kind of apologize. I'm full out Atlantean.
Don't
I
apologize.
do all my posts are carousel posts. If you go onto my Temples of Atlantis Instagram page, you will be so educated on Atlantis. It's way better than reading 5 books, right? Because I'm talking my pillars in the Temples of Atlantis. I have one pillar for Atlantis and ancient civilizations. I have another one for the archangels, and the last one for the galactics. And if you follow that page and you take the time to read it, you're going to be like, wow. And there's going to be things that resonate for you and awaken for you. And then we can have our next step together.
I just want to say, because this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm kind of a salesman for the new age. In the beginning, you know, you're being tortured by Christians and things like that. Your memories of that, you know, a lot of times you're blaming, you know, Atlantean priestesses for the atrocities that happened to you with the dark energies on the planet. What I have had in the last, I mean, I predicted, I'm happy that I was correct, but now that Pluto's moving to Aquarius, I've had people who are like, you're full of shit. Who are like, I had a memory last night of an island sinking. Like, you know, and so this is going to happen on its own. You don't have to push. I would say talking to you, the Akashic thing is really good. I think people need to really understand that. I love that you have the galactic, you know, approach to it, you know, because it took me years to realize that. And the other part is I have so many Reiki healers in this audience right now. Y'all go get the next level, okay? The Reiki that's around right now is like the ABCs from what I can tell of what I remember. And if you call yourself a Reiki healer, you got to learn the ancient galactic stuff. You should go talk to you and to see what you have to share, because it is so much bigger than what what's been let out. Right.
Right. And it needed to be that way in the early 1900s because we weren't in that expanded consciousness. But now that, you know, I think there's a huge population of the planet that's at least had a Reiki session, right? If they're not already like a level 2 Reiki practitioner. There's such a population now that as our vibration raises, you're going to then need bigger outlets and more advanced training to bring in those new codes. And that's what I've always taught Reiki. I started teaching in 2018 from the perspective that the Arcturians were the deliverers of Reiki to the planet. That's just something that they showed me when I was doing my Atlantean healing. But as I was like kind of getting bored with the material of teaching the same thing over and again, I was brushing my teeth one day and my guides are like, Priscilla, it's cosmic conscious Reiki. Oh, of course it is. And you need to teach about the Syrians and the Palladians because you haven't been doing that very much. I'm like,
wow.
Okay. And then it just like clicked, you know? So I like to honor the foundation and the history of it. I think that's really important. But that was just the piece we could handle at that time. Yeah. And that's why we see Fire Dragon Reiki and Angelic Reiki and Karuna Reiki and all these things, because it's time to expand it. And it's really beautiful. I allow in 20 students to each cohort, like level 1 through 3, 20 students I teach for a year. And watching them go through their journey, if you're a teacher, anyone that's there as a teacher, there's no greater joy as a teacher than watching your students heal and trust themselves and come into their own light and their own greatness. Really, it's amazing. And I've seen my Reiki students do beautiful and powerful things, and I'm so proud of them.
I think you have a good audience here, and I encourage everyone to go in that direction. There's so much unpacking here to talk about, but I love that the galactic energy, I really have felt the galactic energy really coming in right now. I just want to share that with you. Like, you know, I mean, and we're seeing with drones flying over Jersey, you know what I mean? Like it's all coming in now. And so the wisdom, it seems that Atlantis in many ways was a colony of galactic beings and knowledge. And so it is the United States of the Milky Way.
Well, the first time I saw myself as an Atlantean, as Queen Atlanta in 2020, she had blue skin and an elongated skull.
Wow, which is Egyptian, you know.
And I was like, blue skin? And then I understand that's what I mean. Like even Atlanteans on Earth, they're reincarnations from Atlanteans on Sirius and Alpha Centauri. And do you know what I mean? Like it's the same Atlanteans coming to Earth to lay the foundation. Right? Like, okay, here we are. Like, we're here again on Earth. Now we're going to bring this vibration up. But we just got really sidetracked, which is okay. You know, and in a grand scale, what's 10,000 years on the fall? What is it?
Yeah. Well, the Earth experiment, equal day and equal night. I mean, that's the whole thing. The whole experiment from the beginning was to find that balance between dark and light. And so I'm not surprised that the one civilization of Atlantis that fell is in that big grand 50-50 experiment, so
Yeah. And it goes with a cycle. If we talk about the precession of the equinoxes, like every 12,600 years, there's a switch. So we've been falling from Atlantis for 12,000 years, right? So that the good news is awesome. Now we're going to come up and we're going to enjoy that new golden era. And I don't think it's going to dip down. I think our new thing on Earth, like when people are like, I'm never coming back to this planet. I'm like, are you crazy? It's only doing good.
This is the Marriott of the universe, baby.
Come back, and whatever my next lifetime is, bring me back because I just want to enjoy it for a while.
Me too. Yeah, I always say I want to come back and enjoy my work. I want to see what I did. Yeah, totally. Everyone's like, "This is my last life." I'm like, "Okay, more real estate," but it's still the hurt. It's the pain of Atlantis. Yeah. It's been an awesome pleasure to talk to you today. I mean,
me too. Thank
my
you.
heart is so happy. I feel like I have a new Atlantean friend. And please stay backstage after this. Sure. I'd like to talk to you for a couple minutes after the show. And everyone, I would just say it'll resonate. I mean, first, if you're watching this show, there's a reason. Eventually, just stay open. And invite in the universe this professional right here, because clearly she knows what she's talking about, and just healing from the wound. And so I'm excited to see where this grows with you, because I feel like it's going to be really exciting times of memories opening.
Thank you so much. Thank you to your audience. Thank you for being curious. That's the best Atlantean trait I know.
Huh, that explains a lot. See you in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings, everyone.
Woo-wee. I can feel there's a lot of questions I could have asked her, and I'm sure we're going to gossip, over tea. But I'll just tell you energetically, complete simpatico. So I feel like as a spirit, this woman knows what she's talking about. And so if you have inklings, even if you're Lemurian, you might look this up. I don't find many experts. I was raised by a father who told me these things. I mean, so I've lived alone with all this stuff in my life. I have some friends who I'll talk about. It's coming out much more that Pluto's in Aquarius, but definitely a gem there. And I do believe, honestly, if she's been following from planet to planet, how fucking lucky are we to have her on the show? You know what I mean? Like the one holding over space, the mother of that energy. All right, friends, let's transition now. I want to say countdown 2025. Talk about Atlantean drama. It couldn't be better than this. I mean, I really believe, now to put in context from this interview, that, this year of 2025 is when these Atlantean players start moving into motion and start living whatever they're meant to, picking up that timeline. Countdown 2025 at senseichristopher.com. It's a 2.5-hour webinar. You get to chat with other people who believe the same things you do. It's recorded. You can have access to it for the whole year. And, I try to make them better every year. And when I say better, I try to make them more useful. I'm a person that's like, if you can't use it practically, then why do it? I want to give you dates. I want to give you maps. I want to, for all the 12 signs and your rising signs, give you sort of a do not disturb list, just so you'll walk into the year a bit more informed. It's a very good investment in yourself, and it's a perfect time. SenseiChristopher.com. Serious Joy subscribers get a big discount. So if you sign up for Serious Joy for $4, you're going to save $20 with a coupon code that you will get once you're in the app. So you might consider that as well. Let's talk about Serious Joy. First of all, I don't know if you're familiar with my service, but it's time to sign up, okay? This is a spiritual companion service, SeriousJoy.com. It's designed to be with you. We're always with you. Our text messages that we send you will blow you away at how accurate they are. I say that with full confidence and no reserve at all. I've just heard so many thousands of people telling me about how one message just shifted them at the right moment. You also get a daily pep talk every day. We have a great team. Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder will substitute, where we give you just a play-by-play for the day. Think of the morning news, except it's the morning spiritual news. We also have the Zodiac Mega Monthlies. This is a month view based on the sign. I'll be recording Aquarius soon. I'm excited to see what that is. And that comes with the service as well, with Robbie Hunt as my co-host. We also have other programs that open up other consciousness. Most recently, Sovereign Revolution with Krista Marie Miller. Sovereign Revolution, Krista is a channel, brilliant. She's channeling dead people I knew from heaven. She's really, really talented. She channels Mary Magdalene, the twin flame of Christ, twin flame of Jesus, which is Yeshua. And Mary Magdalene has a whole bunch of stuff to teach. You may or may not believe in it. Just listen. Your soul will tell you if it's bullshit or not. But we're real proud to have her. She's on 3 days a week. And this is more cheesy but fun. The Love and Lust Report. Secrets of birthdays. I recorded this report in 2010, and it tells you about who you are in your love life. It's really good. I was just pure channeling it. It's a feature that's come back. We sort of gave it an upgrade, like a Disney attraction. And it's using our proprietary technology. We built technology at Serious Joy that allows us to create customized audio reports based on your astrology. So it's really good. And it comes with subscription. In fact, once people listen to it, they make their partners listen to it, they make their family listen to it, etc. And the last thing I want to point out is the welcome party. I don't know if you know this, but every first Wednesday of the month, we do a welcome party for everyone who is coming to Serious Joy. These are the new subscribers. It is headed by Daiki Okamoto and Gwen English, who are practitioners and astrologers. And this week, I'm making a guest appearance at the orientation. So if you're a new subscriber, come Wednesday live. You can ask me questions about, as long as it's not about your chart, you can ask me questions, and I'll be of service there. But, at Serious Joy, we're a family, and not a cult. We're a family, and we take care of you. And the welcome party is just one thing. So give it a try for $3.99. You'll know when you are ready. Sharing is caring. The best thing you can do for us is just to share us with your friends and family. Remember, we have the soul horoscopes come out on Tuesdays. They're all cut apart. You can share that soul horoscope with people. Every time I ask a person, when I do a reading, I'm like, how'd you find out about me? It's always a friend. It's always a family member. So please do if you feel inspired. We also have a Facebook club. This is an amazing club. And the club is getting an upgrade too. I want to make the Facebook club like a free town where, the best of the best can come hang out, talk, meet for free on the cost of Facebook. Make Zucker pay for it. That's at seriousjoy.club. You can follow us anywhere, by the way, on our link tree at seriousjoy.social. So if you want to know where we are, and that'll be expanding too. And if you'd rather listen instead of watch, we do an audio podcast. A lot of people listen to us when they work out or go on walks and things like that. We have an audio podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. I want to say thank you, because we don't have a credit badge, to my co-executive producer, Diane DeStefano, our new graphic artist, AC Chico, so cool, Adam Turner, spinning the control room, thank you, and my teaching staff, our teaching staff, Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder, Gwen English, and Daiki Okamoto. We also have some very special people in the audience. Thank you to our moderator, Sydney, and she's coming up with all of our polls. Princess Coffee Bean, Jill Louise, Margot Malia. I talked to you on Sunday. I heard Lori Ship, Nikki Anderson, Erica, Michelle Camper, Michelle Bell, Soul Brother, Dale Blankenship, Neptune Girl, Jamar, Christine Kelly, and Iggy and Nitu, who, Iggy's a brother, and Nitu is part of the Unite the Light. We'll be having announcements for Unite the Light ticket sales coming soon. Super excited. All right, friends. Wow. Good night. I hope you have a great weekend. Listen to your heart. And remember, I love you. Live, love, be.